It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here. We'll recap all the things we learned yesterday from Satya Nadella's keynote, all 17 minutes of it, and from the build sessions that have been going on all this week. Microsoft wants you to love Windows again. You mean you didn't? Project Reunion Point 8 comes out. PowerFx gets an AI infusion. And, yes, there's new features in Teams. I think that's a new weekly feature, plus our Xbox segment and a whole lot more questions from the audience, too. It's all next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 726, recorded Wednesday, May 26th, 2021. Quake Mode. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Udacity. Gain in-demand tech skills in as little as 3 months with Udacity's part-time online tech courses. Visit udacity.com/twit and get 75% off any program with the code TWIT75. Offer ends June 30th, 2021. And by Bandwidth. Bandwidth understands the challenge enterprises face when migrating to direct routing for Microsoft Teams. That's why Bandwidth launched Duet for Microsoft Teams, the only complete solution for direct routing and Microsoft-certified E911, available direct from a carrier and designed to simplify your Teams migration. Request your proof of concept at bandwidth.com/ww. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft. Microsoft Build is on, and the builders are here. Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com. Hello, you two.
Hello.
Seems like we just were doing the show. Oh, yeah, yesterday.
I
think we were.
Long time no see.
I got up early. I don't usually do anything at 9 in the morning. I thought, well, this is exciting. Satya Nadella. There's probably going to be all sorts of great, exciting news.
I feel like we talked about this ahead of time, didn't we? Did we set expectations?
I was the one who suggested it. I was like, "No, you guys should do it." Yeah, so I took full responsibility.
No, it's not your. We would have done it anyway. I remember last year the Build keynote was awesome because it not only had Satya Nadella, but then Scott Hanselman and others came on and did wonderful demos, and it really was fun. In fact, we had to cut away after I think an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yeah.
I should have known. I mean, I looked at the schedule. It said Mr. Nadella will be speaking for half an hour. As it turned out, 17 minutes, because he is
not
fast.
even. If you look at the YouTube version, is a clean 16. It's
he reads fast. He's a fast reader.
He is.
Oh boy!
And it was really just kind of like, here's what we're going to be doing at Build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't mad that that's how they approached it, but I also thought at the end he'd be like, "And here's some demos of the coolest things we have." No.
Yep.
No demos at all. Why do you think that is? What happened there?
Well,
I mean, they've gotten into trouble in the past with things that never panned out. That might be a big.
It's always risky to and certainly Google did this last week. Talk about stuff that's not going to ever come out of the labs.
Think about what the point of this show is, a developer show. There is no more pragmatic Microsoft customer than a developer. They don't want to know what you're going to do for me in 6 months or a year, or maybe never. They want to know what's happening now. And I think, from the perspective of hard news, not super exciting, right? There wasn't really a lot going on.
No.
But maybe that's not what Build should be to begin with. The problem is perceptually. Is that a word? Yeah, perceptually. Perceptually. It's a word now, guys. Don't worry about it. It's going up against Google I/O and Apple WWDC, and those are more consumer-oriented and tend to be a little more fun.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I was saying before the show started, I was watching today's keynotes, which was Scott Guthrie, Scott Hanselman, Kevin Scott, Rajesh Jha even, who heads up experiences and devices. And I'm like, you know what? This would have been the good day one keynote to me.
Right.
Because Scott Guthrie did exactly what Satya did, except with a little more technical addition to it. And I'm like, you know what? I think developers would have liked that. And they love Scott GUI. So I'm like, that's kind of interesting. They didn't make that the day one keynote.
So they made an interesting choice. But it is the CEO, and probably he gets to say.
Well, but he could have come on at the beginning and then done those other. They could have done those other things, right? That would have been a day or a morning or whatever.
He could have done his 1 minute on tech intensity and stepped aside, and then we'd all be happy.
Yeah.
Did you notice they've evolved tech intensity to become developer
Digital
intensity?
transformation.
Oh, that's
developer
interesting,
right?
velocity.
The velocity,
Developer
sorry.
Velocity, yeah.
We're getting lost in nonsense words. You know, like how many
know,
words can we
are.
combine into nonsensical phrases and then sell it as marketing?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I don't know. I think there was news in Build, but it was definitely a much more incremental show than normal.
And Nadella had none of it. I remember last time, I mean, he really laid out kind of this 4-point plan and and introduced Project Reunion and some other things. He had news.
Yeah.
This was really just literally, here's what we're going to talk about at Build.
I mean, we
Yeah.
had news. We had Project Reunion 0.8. That's huge, right? I don't know.
1 year later.
Yep. We're getting there.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there were things, but whenever you put on a show like this, you have to prioritize and pick and choose what you're going to make the front piece that you show, and we don't always agree with what they do on that. But hey, we're not running the show.
True, so broadly.
Yeah. You know, of all the things, I've been watching a few of the sessions since yesterday, live and both the on-demand and the live versions. And I got to tell you, the session, if you haven't watched it, in addition to the Scott Hanselman keynote, if you only watch one other session, watch Charles Lamanna. So Charles Lamanna is the head of Power Platform, and he does this keynote in front of Gasworks Park in Seattle, which is this old abandoned gas plant that now is like a landmark. And he talks about how it's very symbolic because it's showing him saying, here's the old way we had people coding, and now we're moving to a new way. And you don't want to be the guy in the gas plant that gets abandoned. You want to move on to the future. And
Wow,
it's
that
actually an
sounds like
excellent keynote. I watched it twice even because I'm like,
Sounds like a
there's
message
lot
for
of,
Windows developers, Mary
interesting
Jo.
tidbits in the keynote if you kind of parse it out. I'm working on a story about it, but he doesn't just talk about Power Platform, but he talks about the future of development all up. And it's pretty interesting.
Interesting.
I think you should watch that one, Paul.
How many of the sessions have you all watched? A lot of them, or the majority of them?
I watched. I had Build on basically all day yesterday, and then for part of today. I'm planning to watch that reunion talk that's on at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I going forward, I'm going to be a little more careful about which ones I watch. I want to watch the things I'm interested in, obviously.
I know, right? Because you can get lost in there. Like, there's so much content at all different levels. Like, you can definitely kind of spin up. Oh, you know what's another good one? The Fluid Framework presentation is really good. And they didn't pay a ton of attention to that in any of the announcements. But remember a couple of builds ago, that was the hot thing. And it's still going forward. And the presentation on Fluid Framework shows you that it's definitely happening. Like, they showed some pretty cool demos and stuff about it. So, yeah.
As you said that, I was imagining Fluent, and I thought you had been replaced by a replicant of some kind. But then I realized this is actually...
Fluent and fluid sound same, but are definitely two different things.
That's not Mary Jo. How do I signal Leo?
Yeah, Fluent is those icons that I never can see that are just like a mishmash of new styles and things and rounded corners and dark mode and all that. And Fluid Framework is actually something that matters. It's fast co-authoring and embedding components in applications that are constantly updated in real time. That's pretty cool, right?
Absolutely.
So Fluid is the look. Fluent is
the other way.
Backwards.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Fluent.
I know.
Fluent is the look and feel. It's the UX.
Look and feel is Fluent.
Yeah.
Fluid is this new Fluid design
framework.
No, don't use the word design. Fluent framework. Fluid. Oh, screw it.
Fluent is the new version of Ole Com,
right.
Yes.
Compound document.
I don't know why. It's something wrong with me. All I hear is flu. I am not really distinguishing between id and ent.
Oh, no, I did a double take when she started talking about how great it was. And I thought, my God, she hates this thing.
She sees
it?
Yeah. How can you even see it, Mary Jo?
Did you go to the doctor? You can see
can't.
No,
No. Anyway, there's definitely good tidbits in Build, worth pulling out, worth looking at, and it's free. You can just go on the site and sign in and look at all this for free.
That's the great point. So we're not doing the back of the book stuff today. If we had, I think my tip would probably have been everyone can go back and watch these videos. They're online, right? If you just Google Microsoft Build, you'll come up to the site and you can see all the sessions, and when the videos are available, they appear. They'll be on YouTube, of course, as well.
Yep.
So you can always catch up on that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, and actually, to that point, since we're not going to do the normal, tips and code names, and are you even chewing a beer pick?
I know. It's it's a special week because everything is about Build.
Listen, I think we're trying to embrace change here. It's hard for me.
Okay, well, don't change too much. But anyway, this time,
just for today,
we have so much to talk about that we're just going to do the whole show.
Yeah.
But we do want to include your thoughts and comments. So, of course, IRC, irc.twit.tv. If you're watching and listening live, you can comment there. Our Club Twit members are in the Discord. You could take the stage, and the nice thing about Discord is that we can hear you. I'll read the IRC comments or questions, but we can hear you. So as we get closer to the, about an hour from now, as closer to the end of the show, we'll give you a chance to get up on the stage and ask a question. And I know people are a little shy, a little hesitant. I want to encourage you.
Well, you should be, because I'm going to grill the heck out of you if you call in. So.
We're supposed to surprise them.
I'm kidding.
Sneak up on them and jump them from behind.
Where were you on the night of...
No, Paul and Mary Jo will not bite, and we won't laugh at any questions, however.
You might laugh at our answers, but...
So, get your questions ready, everybody. There was some news, but it just wasn't in the Nadella keynote.
Yeah.
Or if it was blinked over.
Well, there was a little bit in the Nadella keynote. It was very subtle, but it was there.
What was that?
Right? When he alluded to the fact that he is running a new Windows, he's self-hosting it, and there'll be more to say about it soon.
And he said something like the most significant update in the past decade.
In a decade.
In the past decade,
right.
yeah. Which, by the way, the past decade, nothing's happened, so great.
I know, basically.
Is that, so I asked you at the time, is that just Sherman Oaks? No, it's not Sherman Oaks.
Sherman. No, it's
Wow,
Sherman
that's a good
Hemsley.
code name, though.
Sun Valley. Is that just Sun Valley, the new look and feel Windows, or what? It's not. We know it's not 10X.
No.
Right.
It's Sun Valley.
So what is this? So in other words, this is not something that we don't know. This is it's not a big reveal. Or is it?
But it's the first time they've publicly acknowledged it, even though we've all written about it a lot.
They never said they're doing this.
No.
Oh.
Well,
nope.
Okay.
Nope. They never did.
Here's the thing, though. I just don't. We got to go back in time here, right? Mary Jo and I went out to Redmond for that January 2015 event, and this guy stood up and said, it's not enough for people to need Windows. We want people to love Windows.
I know.
And
I'm
sorry,
happened,
but this is what's sad about that.
I know.
The problem, the day that he said that, the problem with Windows was that Windows was covered in crapware on most PCs that people bought. And so their experience was ruined before anyone even saw the thing. But then Microsoft released Windows 10. They put their own crapware right in the box. So even though some PC makers are actually shipping clean PCs now, there's still crapware there because of Microsoft. Not to mention advertising and telemetry you can't turn off, which many people believe is a privacy invasion. I
know.
I feel like too much was made of 3 sentences about Windows that amounted to no new news, And I'm probably not going to publish this because it just comes off mean-spirited, but you can go through all the headlines people wrote and be like, seriously, what are you excited about here exactly? Like he spoke for 16 minutes, he mentioned Windows for 30 seconds, and this is somehow, a news story. And it's like, I
know. You know what? People were dying for something to come out of this that was newsy, right? And so when he said this, they were like, yay, here's something I can write. Here's my headline, right? And we in the immediate circle of Windows watchers know that this is going to happen, and we think there's going to be an event next month. But to many general reporters, this was like, wait, what? I never heard about this, right? So they were excited.
Beyond the 3 sentences of quote you could get out of this, I'm not sure what else is in the story because there is nothing else. There's no There's no
So they
session
didn't give
this
a
week
date.
where they're going to talk about it.
No.
You know, there's no.
No, because you know what they're doing? They're building up the hype cycle, right? So this was the first little peak, right? Okay, so Satya says, I'm hosting this new Windows thing, and it's coming soon, and it's going to have some things
again,
in.
I'm sorry to interrupt it. I'm hosting. You know,
that's right.
he did say that. What does that mean?
did.
Some guy who makes a 6-figure salary came in and installed it on a computer for him. I mean, you know, it's not like Nadella's like, what's my Microsoft account password again? I got to sign up for Insider. You know, and then did it himself. I mean, what is that even? Geez, guys. Like,
I know.
Do you think
know.
it's a clue?
So-
Like it's a subtle hint at Windows Virtual Desktop being hosted?
You
no,
know,
I
I
think he
didn't take
literally
it
means
that
he's
way.
he's running it on a computer.
Yeah.
He literally, someone
I'm
installed
hosting.
it.
But that's this interesting choice of words. I never
I know.
said I'm
Well-
hosting
Well,
Windows.
This is Microsoft
Yeah.
speak. You know, they talk about dog
No, he's an
fooding and they use all
enterprise
these terms.
guy. Yeah, self-hosting is like an enterprise thing, right? So I took it as him using enterprise lingo
yes.
around
So
it.
a normal person would say, I'm using a new version of
Yeah.
Windows. Okay.
Yeah. Or I'm running a new version of Windows on my
Yeah.
PC right now. Yeah. But the other thing he said,
Hosting implies you're all invited. Like, you come on
I know,
over.
it does.
Exactly.
It does.
Yeah.
No, the other very subtle clue in here was there's going to be a new store. And so what he said around that was we've got some monetary opportunities for Windows developers we're going to be telling you a lot more about. That's the new store he's talking about right
This
there,
is
right?
the timely opportunity to say, and it won't be 30% VIG like
exactly.
Apple. Yeah.
Exactly. No, so the next thing that'll happen is in some amount of days, PR will send out invitations just like they do for Apple events. What's next for Windows? We'll all write about the invitation is out. Now we have the date. Then everybody will speculate again on what this is. So it's like, you know, they're building layers of hype up to this thing, right? And then there'll be an event probably with Panos, right? Panos will come out and be like, and here it is. Here's the new Windows, and show off the UI and say it's coming to insiders on such and such a day, and it'll be out this fall. Maybe he'll say it'll be out this fall.
So let me write the next series of headlines, which will be Panos is pumped about the new Windows.
Exactly. You could already write this story right now and have it ready.
I wrote it
in your
already.
CMS.
See? It's
There you
just
go.
ready to go. Yep.
Right. I think I don't think I didn't write an article on this either because I feel like I've been saying it in all my articles up to this point. So I'm like, I'm not going to pull out another story saying the exact same thing I've been saying every time. But
Why
I
not,
guess
Mary Jo? Everybody else is.
Have you ever heard of
Everybody
something
else
called
did.
SEO, Mary Jo?
I know. Don't tell my boss I didn't do that. But
Let me explain how the
but
internet
yeah.
works.
no, but I think it's interesting they acknowledged it finally, and now it's setting off all the speculation on Twitter. I don't know if you guys have been watching this week, but what exactly is going to be in this release, and is this release going to be the same thing as 21H2, which we've talked about on Windows Weekly several times now, going back and forth, like, is it or isn't it? I still think they're going to do two different releases. I think they're going to have
That's amazing.
this Sun Valley thing that will be designated something like maybe Windows 11 or maybe Windows something, and then there'll be Windows 10, 21H2 that'll be an incremental update. That's my bet. I don't know that for a fact.
When you say that, do you mean that Sun Valley will not be in H2 and it will be in a future?
Yep.
Okay.
No, I think it'll be out this fall, but it won't be in. I don't think they're not going to. I don't think they're going to call this Windows 10. I don't think
Really?
they are. Yeah. I really don't. I think, and the reason is because they want to build up the hype, right? Like they're trying to make it look like Windows is back, baby, and we get a whole new thing for you guys, and here it is. Like it's so big, even though we told you Windows 10 was the last release, we got to have a new number or we got to have a new name because it's so big. That's my guess.
We are
what they're going to do.
cruising into the sixth anniversary of Windows 10. That typically would have been two versions of Windows, not just the one, right?
Yep.
In that amount of time, I mean.
Yeah. So I think that's what they're going to do. I no one has told me this. I'm basing this on my own sourcing, my own conversations with people like Zach Bowden, who's been very good on kind of figuring out the puzzle here from Windows Central. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be the new Windows, like something new, right?
Wow. I mean, This raises a lot of issues here. So
It does.
Let me grab a little tidbit that's later in the notes and just kind of insert it here, because I wonder if this doesn't have something to do with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have, over the past few weeks, and especially the past couple of days, been taking review laptops that I've never sent back and have to send back, right, to HP and Dell and Lenovo. And I bring them up to date because I want to see if they can go to 21H1. And with one exception, every single one of them was updated to 21H1, and then I reset them and, box them back up, right? So I've been kind of keeping track of that. And the two observations I have there are the obvious one. A, this thing is just going out to everything, right? Which is not the way that previous, it's not really a feature update, but, whatever, we call it a feature update. Yeah. Not the way it's gone with previous versions of Windows 10, right? So that itself, I think, is notable. The other one, and this is something everyone who's ever installed this has noticed, if you went directly from a previous version of Windows to either 2004 or 2004 or whatever, or 20H2, I'm sorry, and you would have noticed that this thing installed pretty quickly, right? It's a cumulative update. They're pretending it's a feature update. And the assumption, of course, because why else would it be anything different, is that 21H1 is the same, that this is going to be one of the quicker installs and it's super easy and all that kind of stuff. It's actually way better than that. This is by far the fastest version of Windows to ever install ever. It takes literally 3 to 5 minutes. It is the amount of time this takes. This isn't even a cumulative update, even though technically that's probably how it's packaged. This is the tiniest nonsensical update to Windows that has ever occurred. And it's something different. It's not the same as 2004 and 20H2, and I don't know why. And I'm wondering, there's been this constant rejiggering of how does Microsoft deploy new versions of Windows, new features in Windows, and of course app updates would happen through the store. But and there are now several ways that these updates can be applied on your computer. And I'm saying, without any information about it really, just based on experience, this is a new way. This is something different. It's not the same as 2004 and 20H2.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
And I wonder. And the reason I bring that up now is, if that they might coast now until they have this major new thing, that if 21H2 isn't a cumulative update / feature update as we used to see in the past, it may be this thing again, and that because the next version they're actually going to do something completely differently. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
Interesting.
Maybe. Yeah. I think I've been confused by it.
Yeah. I know. That's a really interesting point. And Rob, I see on Discord, Robert Haas is saying IT is going to freak out about Sun Valley. Yeah, they will freak out about Sun Valley, right? And so the way you keep them from freaking out, in my view, is you say to them, guys, don't worry. We got this Sun Valley brand new thing over here. And we got Windows 10, 21H2, that is like the most minor update that you won't even notice, and it has 30 months of support, and you're going to love it. And IT will applaud, and consumers will be happy because they see the new shiny thing with the rounded corners, right? You make everyone happy.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
I'll
my
tell you,
guess. I'm guessing.
The 21H1 install, and now we have to move to kind of anecdotal information. Even my several machines that have already updated is technically anecdotal, but I'm just saying I've done this kind of thing a lot, and that's to me is notable. Mary Jo and I and others tend to get feedback from people when things go wrong, and
we do
nothing. But why would be? Because this really isn't an upgrade. It's nothing. Yeah. It's not even a traditional cumulative update. You
still need the enablement package and that whole thing to happen, right? Like
to have that experience. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, but that was true of the last two as well, right? I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
So in other words, and by the way, and actually, I'm sorry. Let me add to the evidence. Typically, if you have an older computer that's on, I'm just going to make up a number. Say it's on like 1909, and now the new version is 20H2, right? You don't install 2004, reboot, and then go 20H2. You just go right to it. That is not the case with 21H1. You actually do install 20H2.
Oh, you do?
Reboot, and then it's in every case, where it wasn't already on 20H2. It has offered 20H2. I've installed it. That goes pretty quick. And then you can reboot, and it offers 21H1. Interesting. I mean, it's really interesting. So,
and they haven't talked about that change, right?
Not to my knowledge. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying they've kind of positioned this like it's the same thing. And what I'm saying is it can't be. There's something else going on.
And you bring up the point of there are many different ways they can update the operating system now, right? So we have this feature experience pack thing, right, where they have been putting a few things in there. But that's another school of thought is what if they put a lot of the Sun Valley update into that and then update with that? Although more and more the way we're hearing what we call it the Sun Valley update, but it's not just a change in the UI. It's like also like some pretty deep fundamental foundational changes like in touch and the store. So I don't think they could update that through a feature experience pack. It feels like too much, right? That they'd have to change.
But maybe that is what they're building towards, right? Because so far in the Windows Insider program, the testing of the feature pack stuff has been I mean, almost
haphazard,
unnoticeable. Like, you don't even see it's happening. But maybe that's the point.
Yeah,
they're kind of testing it with little things, and maybe they have bigger plans for this.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, remember? So I was just reminiscing about this because I just wrote about it. But I mentioned that January 2015 thing again. There was a lot of new at that event, right? They introduced HoloLens, they introduced Surface Hub. So there's a lot. Our minds were kind of racing. Windows 10 was going to be a free upgrade for the first year for Windows 7, 8, and 8.1 users, whatever it was. Windows Phone was going to be a free upgrade, for Windows Phone 8.1 users to Windows 10 at the time they became Windows Mobile. And they mentioned very casually Windows as a service, and I speculated at the time that there was it sounded like, based on what they said, there was going to be some kind of a weird requirement that Windows 10 users would have to keep their computers up to date, which we know, of course, is the case. But there was no indication that Windows as a service was going to turn into the disaster/nightmare that it has been. And I think that these things we just talked about are the solution to that problem, because they want to keep Windows up to date. And I think at a theoretical level, we can all agree that that's important, right? It obviously is important. But the real life implications of doing that have been terrible. And I think they're trying to fix that. And I wonder if that isn't part of this story as well. Making Windows as a service make sense. More sense.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you brought this up the other day on Twitter. I saw you mention it. Remember that post they did like 2 or 3 years ago about a modern OS, and they tried to downplay it. Remember they said, no, we're just talking about Windows 10. But I'm like, no, every single thing you listed in here is not about Windows 10, including how easy it is to do updates and how they just take care of themselves and it's never a problem and there's never incompatibilities. So you might be right. That might be part of Sun Valley, what we call the Sun Valley update too.
I mean, I think at the time we were like, did they mean Windows 10X? What is this thing?
Yeah.
And no, that's a good point.
We didn't know. Right? We didn't know what it was, and they denied it. And they denied that it was something new.
But if you go back and read that announcement, it's the weirdest, and especially even if whether you understand the context of it or not, because it's almost contextless. Why did they announce that at the time? What were they talking about? Yeah. It didn't make any sense.
It didn't. It seemed like they pre-announced 10X way before they were ready to roll it, and then they ended up killing it, as we know. Oh, yeah. By the way, we had a funny thread on Twitter last night. Me, Taro Elhonen, and Zach Bowden, a couple other people. We were talking about what would they call it, right? So Zach thinks they're going to call it Windows 11 or should call it Windows 11. And then I think Brad has said he thought they'd call it just plain old Windows, this new update. Right. But then Taro comes in and he says, what if they called it 10X? Like they just killed 10X. Why not you reuse the name that they just eliminated? Oh, and I'm like, oh.
The extreme version
in a weird way makes sense, right?
I would like to see them just call it Windows, but of course they would have to keep versioning. So it could be 11 point something. Well, I mean, they have to have versions. I know. The brand, the thing that we call it is different from the thing that it really is underneath the covers.
That's true.
Right? So
that's true.
Windows 95 was really Windows 4.0.
That's true.
So those can be different things, but I mean, who cares anymore? Apple.
It's just only when you call. No, when normal people call in and the technician says, what version of Windows are you running? Windows. Yep. But which one? No, Windows. Just Windows. Plain old Windows.
Well, there are very quick ways to ascertain that a support person could ask you to do. But
Exactly.
Paul mentioned that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned all those computers I'm bringing back to life. When I do Windows key plus R, it brings up the run dialog. WinVer is it's there on this computer. It's there on every computer I own, because that's the one thing I do from the run command. And when I reset those computers, first thing I check is like, okay, this is on 2004, 1909, 20H2, whatever. Good to know. And then kind of watch and see what happens and ensure it's on 20H2 by the time I'm done. 21H1, sorry.
Yep. Yeah, so the next thing we got to figure out is when they're going to do this event.
Right. Hopefully it's the week I'm away.
So I don't think it's my guess. Not next week, even though that's the first week of June, because it's right after Memorial Day. The next week after that is WWDC. They would be suicidal to do it that week.
So you're saying maybe the third week of June.
Maybe the third.
Maybe.
That's when you're
Guess
gone.
when I'm going away, Mary Jo.
Maybe you should call Chris Kapp and say, by the way, if you want to do this when I'm away, like
if you think that Chris Kapp doesn't already have access to my calendar, you're not paying attention.
No, my guess is it's going to be the fourth week of June because I think they need all the time they can get to get ready. But maybe I'm wrong. It's a guess.
But then you're like, but the fourth week of June is the end of the fiscal year. I mean, maybe this is the type of bang they need to start the next fiscal year.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Right.
Just do it
Why
on
would
July
he mention
4th.
it?
We're already celebrating.
What was the I mean, that has to do with the timing too, right? Or is he just trying to gin up excitement?
Crank the hype train. Yeah. Get it going.
Satya Nadella, hype man.
Exactly. And you want to hype it a little before WWDC, right?
Yeah. I look at Microsoft as
nobody who's waiting for WWDC cares one bit about my.
No.
Well,
I know.
I don't
but
think.
You know, except Microsoft employees like Panos who like think Apple is their main competitor and they're watching them.
Not true. I just don't.
I disagree with that too.
Yeah.
Microsoft had to have known that what they were offering for Build this year wasn't big from a news perspective.
Yeah,
maybe that's
right.
Yeah.
And they also knew that normal news people would be watching, and they had to throw them some kind of a bone.
Exactly. I think so too.
You know?
Yep.
Because 15 minutes into the 16-minute thing, it was like, what are we looking at here exactly? You know? But man, if you went up to grab a cup of coffee, you would have missed that whole thing.
Yeah, I'll be right there.
Really
I'll see the second half of the keynote. Whoa.
It's over?
It's over? Why is the guy with the hat back? What's going on?
Yeah,
exactly.
At least they didn't have the blob opera singers.
Exactly.
Could have been
it could
worse.
have been way worse.
Oh, well, you know, it's funny. Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to Google, this one's kind of in the middle, right? I think I'm actually thinking WWDC a week from Monday is going to be a big one. Yeah. With hardware announcements.
That's Apple. It's entertaining. Yeah. It's well done.
It'll be well done.
It's of interest to the general
drone
public.
Shots of the Apple
Google
campus.
is the next step down. Obviously, Google makes a lot of very popular things for consumers, maps and photos and blah, 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 whatever. They killed it by talking about AI and nonsense for 45 minutes. I don't know what the heck the start of that thing was, but the rest of it was great. You know, the Microsoft one, I mean, you know, as Microsoft has evolved into this cloud superpower, you know, the developer stuff has gone in that direction too. And that's great for those people that are targeting that platform. And I'm not complaining that it's going in that direction, except of course I am, because what I care about is Windows, and that gets the short end of the stick every year at Build now. So it's kind of hard, you know, for people like me that want to hear about Windows.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I wonder too? What if this what's next for Windows they also throw in some hardware too? Like, and here's something new.
Here's the Neo. I want the Neo.
Well, by the
I don't
way,
think we're close to the Neo.
No, yeah, but you know what though? If they could, so one of the things I'm testing is this ThinkPad X1 Fold, right? Which is literally the most useless computer.
I thought you were doing the Nano. You're doing the Fold?
The Nano's done. I did now. Okay. I moved on to the Fold.
Okay.
And this will be the quickest review I've ever written because I cannot recommend this to anybody. It's completely pointless, other than the fact that folding screen is amazing. And it is amazing. Like, it's amazing.
There's just no use case.
There's literally no use case for this. It is super expensive. It just doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. But the screen technology is excellent. And I don't, you know, obviously I can't speak to durability yet, but I feel like there is a bit of dual screen, folding screen stuff that can and should be happening in this next version of Windows, and that maybe they could repurpose Neo as a Windows 11, we'll call it, just to make up a name, device now, and you know, because things have evolved.
But they seem to be so certain that the hinge was important.
Yeah, they're wrong. But but by the way, so think about one of the things we saw with the Neo, a year ago, November now. It was you have it folded in kind of an L configuration, like a clamshell, and there's a hardware keyboard that goes over the bottom half of the screen, right? Remember this little demo? That's exactly how the Fold works, the X1 Fold. They have a hardware keyboard that magnetically clips onto the bottom of the screen, and it's way too small. I mean, it's even compared to the Nano keyboard, it's 75% of the size. And I have giant hands, but it transforms in a different kind of a way. The Neo, as I understood it, based on the very short glimpse we got of it, would work in a very similar fashion. It's just that it has a divider in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
having used the Duo, I think the hinge is probably not. I'm kind of with you on that. The hinge is probably not what you want. It gets in the way.
I know, but I think they're going to keep going with it.
They really pushed it. I mean, it's not that they can't change their mind, but that was their secret sauce. It reminds me of the hinge on Surface Book. When you see it, it looks like the tread from a tank. Yeah. And which is visually is interesting, but when you close it, it's got that kind of teardrop shape where there's actually space in there. Well, I talked to Stevie Batish very quickly, and he was pulled away by PR as soon as he answered this question. But I said to him, obviously, this is an interim thing. You don't want that to be open. I mean, you just couldn't get it in this iteration, but someday there'll be a Surface Book that it just lays flat. And he said, oh, yeah, obviously. And then someone yanked him away, and I never talked to him. Oh. So, obviously.
Like that, because
Paul,
obviously.
Yeah.
But I feel like the bezel that is between the two the two screens
it's there because it has to be right now.
Yeah, it's just we don't
obviously
want this,
it'll go away. Yeah.
But we're going to get there where we don't need that anymore.
That kind of makes sense. And in a way, that's the answer to all these things. Is it's all ephemeral until they change their mind for something else. The next thing.
Yeah.
Actually, it's all ephemeral is a great tagline for a gravestone, a book about the tech industry.
It's all ephemeral.
I mean, it's Yep.
Yeah. All right.
I know. That's so true. Yep.
Can we take a break here, or would you like? Is there anything else you want to add? And
let's just look at this thing. Do we?
We have some more Windows.
We actually do it. We have more Windows stuff, so we can. But that's fine.
Yeah.
We have a.
I know. There's going to be a lot of Windows stuff. It's called Windows Weekly for a reason.
Guys, I'm sorry about all the Windows content. I know we promised we wouldn't do this.
So let me talk a little bit about something that actually I joined this in 2012. It's called Udacity. It was started by a Googler named Sebastian Thrun, who noted that a lot of the job applicants who were getting at Google, and other big companies noted this as well, didn't really have the skills they needed. Even if they had the computer science degrees, they weren't really coming in with the skills they really needed to get the job done. Thrun said, look, we should create something, an online learning environment that teaches you those skills, that makes up for the gaps in your education. And Udacity was born. And from the very beginning, Udacity has been partnering with these big companies. They created something they call the nano degree, something you can get in as little as 5 or 10 hours a week, working at your own pace. And by the way, of course, you got a day job any time of the day or night, whenever's convenient for you, and graduate in as little as 3 months, but then have a diploma, a degree that says you've got those skills. It makes you so much more employable. Udacity is a unique part-time online education program that's really geared for those who are looking to take their technology to the next level with specialized content that's aimed really at the professional. I've taken their Python courses. I'm far from professional. I love the courses, but the nano degree is really designed to help you get a better job, or if you're a business, to upskill your workforce so that they have the skills that you need them to have. And it's content that a lot of it is not available anywhere else. Things like they've got some great AI degrees and courses, deep learning. Literally, they have courses in flying cars and autonomous flight engineering. There's an intro to self-driving cars. There's machine learning engineer, robotics software engineer. These are the jobs for the 21st century. These are the jobs people want. The jobs, if you listen to this show, you probably want. They partner with Microsoft, Google, IBM, AWS, and more to create the content. They take team leads from these top companies are your instructors. So you know you're learning something that Microsoft, as an example, needs you to know for that job. If you love learning and you're always learning to know more tech stuff, Udacity is just great. I'm a big fan. Courses are project-based, and I really like this. They have the videos. They have the forums and the chat, and they have full-time mentoring if you need it or want it, and which I would recommend. A lot of the learning in any class environment comes not just from the teacher, but from your peers. The mentoring is a great way to get that learning. But the project is really the thing that's so important, because if I've watched videos, I've taken courses, but if you don't actually have to sit down at the keyboard and do it, you'll never really know that you can, and you can't. So the courses are project-based with active learning. You're really involved, including cutting-edge technology. You'll test your knowledge. The homework and the projects are all reviewed by qualified professionals. You get real human feedback. You get reviews, code reviews, and things like that. And, of course, those mentors are there 24/7. They're mentors all over the world. That's actually important. Udacity is in 200, they've had students in 240 countries, 14 million students now. The World Economic Forum estimates that 75 million jobs will be replaced by automated processes in the next 3 years. Maybe you've got an inkling that that's your job. Udacity is preparing you for your future. They have flexible payment options. You can learn at your own pace and schedule. And again, if you've got a team and they need to master cutting-edge technologies like data science or AI, cybersecurity, a lot of people want that right now. Udacity for Enterprise helps you upskill your entire workforce with real-world project-based learning. So if you're a business, check out the Enterprise section of Udacity's website as well. For individuals, we've got a great deal for you. Go to Udacity, udacity.com/twit. You'll get 75% off right now. This is the best offer we've had yet. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. 75% off. You have to use the offer code TWIT75. And this offer ends June 30th, 2021, so don't delay. Make this summer the summer you get those skills you need to get the job you really, really want. Oh, and by the way, that really, really pays. Udacity.com/twit. Offer code TWIT75 for 75% off any program. 75%. I mean, and this is an investment in yourself and your future, and it's well worth it. That price, yes. TWIT75 is the offer code at Udacity.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly. We thank you for supporting Windows Weekly, dear listener, by using that address so they know you saw it here.
Before we move on, Mary Jo and I should discuss the image that Microsoft chose to use in the Book of News for Windows.
Let me pull that up so we can look at it together.
The reason is, and it's funny because before last week, late last week, I between several of us, me, Mary Jo, Brad mentioned this independently, Raphael, we all questioned this image.
This woman sitting there?
No, that's a good image.
Windows.
That's a good image.
Section.
That's a developer. She's using a pen.
Actually, it's worth mentioning. It's worth seeing if it's easy to do. I'm not sure, but each of the major sections has a hero image of something, right? Yeah. So there's you'll see. It's just
do I have to go to the? I'm not seeing any images.
Yeah.
What am I?
There's only 4 or 5 of them.
Okay, so I'll just keep going.
If you use table of contents, that might help.
Oh, go. Okay, tell me where to go in the table. Developer community?
Developer community, yeah.
This is the...
Oh, maybe it's not. Scroll up from there.
I got some sort of crap version of the Book of News.
No, it's probably because it's the web version.
So they sent you a published one. I mean, this is right,
so just imagine images of this quality, and it's a developer in a data center. It's a person with two screens, multitasking. And then the one for Windows was an elderly woman trying to figure out how to use a keyboard and a desktop computer. She's literally like hunched over it, like, doing the 2-finger thing. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Why would they choose that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe to remind developers of who's actually using this stuff?
Maybe.
No, I don't know. It was an odd choice. for a company that's about to try to
Well, maybe they've
say,
taken it out,
we're
'cause
reinvigorating Windows. You know?
I don't have any illustrations in my book of news.
Oh, you don't? Weird.
Maybe they
Weird.
just that top one. Maybe they took it out.
There's 4 or 5 major headings, and then they have an image with each one, and it's so notable. I mean, one of them is even it's a handicapped guy in a wheelchair, probably using some kind of accessible keyboard or something. It's it was fine. It's great. I mean, but like
so they're showing users then.
Well,
Not just
normally
developers?
I guess only the Windows one is what appears to be someone using a computer for the first day ever, confused by this magic on the screen that she's seeing.
But I have to tell you,
has never typed in her life.
I talk
and so
to these people on the radio show all the time.
Yes.
There's a lot. See, okay, don't get mad at me, but what I try to tell them is you're using an operating system designed for a business with an IT department.
Oh.
Kind of.
I honestly don't think that many people should be using Windows unless they have if they're gamers, they need Windows.
Wait, we've been doing this damn show for 16 years, and now you tell me
No, everybody listening to this show should be using Windows. I'm not saying that at all. If you're listening to this show,
you
clearly.
mean you're calling people, right?
I mean the people call the radio show.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're asking questions, I said this to my mother, but several years ago, my mother said,
And it's not
I
ageism
really
because it's young people too.
Yeah. No, it's like I feel like I need to learn how to use a computer, and it's like, you know what?
You don't.
You've gotten this long in life. You're fine. Don't do this.
That is another thing I tell people because there is that feeling in the world. Oh, I'll be left behind if I don't know how to use technology.
Yeah.
At this point, if you're over 40 and you don't know how to use technology, I think you should just.
You've been left behind. You might want to look around you. You're not with us. Yeah.
What do you listen to this show for?
The train left.
No, a lot of people listen to this show either because they're really into Windows or because they want to be. But the people who listen to the radio show are just normal people.
Oh, no, of course. Of
and
course.
a lot of them, I've always said, Windows is really designed with an IT department in mind, in my opinion.
Yep. It's powerful, but it's complicated.
Yeah, a lot of everybody listening is their own IT department if they don't have one, or they're in half of our audience is in IT.
Well, we've talked about this too. We use Mary Jo's mother as an example. I mean, maybe she should be using a Chromebook. I know. Sometimes you do need the bigger screen and the keyboard, but you need something simpler.
I get calls all the time from people who say, "Is there someone who can help me?" And what they're really saying is, "I need an IT department and I need training." And I don't think you should have to. If that's the case, then you probably should use something simpler. Honestly, an iPad for most people is what they really.
There's a reason that Geek Squad exists, and I think we can all agree that Geek Squad should not exist. Right?
No, they don't do training.
Yeah.
Microsoft does some pretty good training in their stores.
Yeah.
So does Apple because they're trying to address this, but there are not that many stores, right?
I know.
But
you know what? We keep saying this, but I wonder if Sun Valley is meant to kind of broach this very paradigm.
That's maybe why this image is there, is to remind people, look, we've got home users too.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. Maybe. Anyway, the reason I think the reason Paul brought this up was because, and this is a little bit of inside baseball, but people were asking me this on Discord yesterday. They said, okay, what happens when you guys get the book of news, right? Like, so you guys get this under NDA, right? We actually got it on Thursday, right?
I'm going to tell you what happened. But go ahead. I want to hear how you describe this.
Yeah, so we get this 40-page thing, and then every reporter who gets it approaches it differently. Like, you look through it, you're trying to figure out what your story lineup's going to be, what you think is the biggest story, and prioritize what you're going to write, how much more information you need to go back to them for interviews or whatever. And so the first place I looked was Windows, and after I saw the Windows section, I'm like, I guess I'm not going to write a Windows story.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you said to me. And I was like, well, I'm going to write a Windows story. I'm going to write a Power Platform story. And at the time, I was going to write an Edge story, but there was literally nothing there.
Nothing,
and
right?
I think I wrote a team story, right? So, but so here's what happens. We discuss it amongst ourselves.
We do.
And I'm going to read verbatim what someone wrote to me when they saw the book. I'm not going to say who it is. It was not Mary Jo. This says, having thoroughly reviewed the build announcements, I can say that this will be the worst build in the history.
Wow. That's
it wasn't me who said that.
And was it the worst build in history? I mean,
no. Well, no.
That was unfair.
you got to, but think of the context of this, right? So this is from the perspective of somebody who needs to write news stories about this. And as we said at the top of the show, it wasn't a particularly newsworthy show. So much so that people wrote entire stories about this 2 sentences, and because Nadella said, because there's nothing else to write about.
I know.
It doesn't mean that nothing is happening. It doesn't mean that the stuff that Microsoft is doing is not valuable, right? This is, in fact, if people are developers or care about developers, I mean, I guess we could take this stance of applauding Microsoft for providing what I'll call a true developer show that is completely devoid of consumer-facing nonsense announcements. And that's what it is. I mean, and
nothing wrong with that. That's fine.
Right. There's nothing.
They've been
wrong
moving
with
in
that.
this direction for years. They really have.
And so next year, I will not be covering the keynote. Thank you very much. No, it's fine if they don't have announcements. That's not. In fact, the way Apple's doing WWDC is really, and some people in the chat room have observed this, combining a product announcement event with a developer event.
I mean, honestly, the
I
keynote
like
is almost solely a consumer product announcement. I mean,
Google actually has 2 keynotes. They have the second keynote, which is the developer
by the way,
keynote.
Apple does too, right? So Apple does the state of developer keynotes or whatever.
So really what's going on is while we have your attention, press, we're going to do an event for the public, and then we'll do our developer thing.
Yeah, we have
Microsoft has everybody's attention all year round. They don't need to do that.
Well, okay.
They've got this show. Why do they need an event?
I would still like to have seen more Windows stuff. We just said they're going to have a separate Windows event. I mean, come on, guys, just roll it in. But
but maybe next year they will roll it in, right? Like this year, I feel like is kind of the after effects of the pandemic. So they had all these separate event kind of things, right? Outside of their show schedule. But next year, if we're going to shows again, you would guess the Windows event would be rolled into Build, right? I mean, I would.
Rather than like having another live event somewhere else at a different time. Yeah, probably.
As long as they have Build again, which, remember there was a rumor about that.
I feel like we are in the industry, trying to thread a new needle here where we don't really know what the right number of events is. In-person events are expensive and ponderous, but they're valuable on a certain ways. Virtual events are really easy to put on if it's just like a product briefing or something, but these are kind of in between. The things that Microsoft, Google, and Apple have done so far have been highly produced events that are a combination of live and non-live material, and they're just different. It's like a hybrid event, right? So I feel like we're still trying to figure that out, and next year, hopefully, Build will be a different kind of hybrid event where some of us can go. And then some of us will still do it virtually.
So you've just given me a great idea. Because our audience is interested in both. So I think, the Apple thing, WWDC thing, is Monday, 10 a.m. for the product announcement, 2 p.m. for the State of the Developer Union. I'm going to do both. I'm going to live in the studio.
Actually, I'll give you another idea. This is just more specific for us, is next year when it comes time for Build, right? We do get this book of news early,
and you can tell me.
We should discess with you.
We should just do a show. Forget Satya. Paul and Mary Jo's keynote.
Okay. Well, no, we could do that too. I rather meant like you could just kind of look at this and determine whether you think it's.
I should have.
Well, we should have. It never occurred to me.
We didn't even think about that.
It occurred to me, and I'll tell you just behind the scenes the editorial decision. We don't want to miss an important announcement.
I know.
So if there's a chance that something will happen, we're going to be there. And I don't mind. Honestly, who cares? I came in. We did it. It was short. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day to do it.
I've spent more time eating breakfast than I spent on this thing.
But I think that serves our audience. That's our job. So, way back when we started this, I wanted to be the CNN of tech. Now I'd just be happy to be the Mr. Rogers of tech. But
it's a little lower.
But the other thing you don't know is
auto salesman guy.
We don't know if there's news. We want to be there, and
even if you look at the book of news, we could look at it and be like, okay, there's some news, and then they do the keynote, and they're like, you know what? We don't think that's the news we want to highlight. We're going to put this other thing in the keynote, right?
That's the problem, right? In other words, and that's something we would have said a week ago, is and probably did say. There could be a surprise,
Right. We
There
thought
could be this thing.
be.
I mean, last year they did like that where I'm mixing up shows maybe, but they did that kind of like HoloLens aquarium thing at one show, and they did the NASA thing that didn't go very well. Maybe that was two. I don't remember. I'm screwing up shows, but those are things that like, we didn't know those were happening. Whenever they occurred. So that kind of thing can happen too.
Yeah, I think. So back to kind of inside baseball. So we get, I said we get the book, we look at it, and then the challenging part, like this happens other times too, but this year I feel like they felt like they had to have a Windows section in the book of news, so they just threw all these things in there that a number of which weren't even new, right? I'm like, so wait, like, is this even new or not new? Like, wasn't this announced months ago? And then trying to get them to actually admit to you that, yes, you're right, is tough.
I have another message from a different person that said, this is from last Thursday, and it literally says, I know you are driving right now, and I was going to Boston. It says, but look at the cover image to show how much they care about Windows from the Book of News for Build. And it literally is the image we were just discussing. Like someone had sent it to me, like, did you see this thing? And it's like, we saw it.
That is an interesting choice. I think they're showing, they're saying, I mean, obviously, they had meetings after meeting about this. Right? It just didn't show up. And they're trying to say, look, everybody uses Windows, including this nice old lady.
Microsoft, everything they put out has to be like a Benetton ad. We have to have one of everything in here. So it's like, do we have an older person?
Yeah, the colors of Microsoft. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, was there an Asian woman?
Yeah.
Was there a person of color?
They have to be inclusive.
Was there a Latinx person?
I literally think there's one of everything.
Was there? I could be their Medicare poster boy.
Yes, you and I both.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm ready. God,
not performing to the level you.
Let me tell you, I'm turning 65 in November. Build. My mailbox is full, not email, because old people like me don't use email. What's email? My mailbox, snail mailbox, is full of solicitations for Medicare.
Yeah. Still alive? Open this.
You wouldn't want to do Medicare without me.
Yeah.
And it's all, there is ageism exists because it really,
oh my God, of course
it's
it does.
like,
especially in our field, it does, especially.
It's terrible. Well, no, all of these solicitations are like, we know you're too dumb and old to figure this out, so we'll do it for you. They're all nice young men.
The way they actually say it is a little nicer.
Well, they're nicer, but it's like I've been helping people like you navigate the complicated pathways.
Here's one. Twice now, a younger woman has held a door open for me at the gym. It's like.
That's pretty bad.
I have never been put in this position in my life.
You know what?
I don't even know how to react to it.
When they do that, I start walking really slow.
Yes, I just trip and fall, and go into like a pill bug
Eventually,
formation.
they give up. You take like a minute to cover the last 10 feet. They're gonna go. They're gonna give up.
No, my best ageism story happened at a brewery, of course, because brewery guys are all like brewery, bro guys a lot of times at these places. And then there's me, right? So I'm in there, I'm looking up a beer on my phone, and a guy comes up to me, he goes, "Do you need help with that phone, ma'am?" And I'm like,
"Are you kidding me?"
No. So I'm like, "No, I'm good." And he's like, I just didn't know if you knew how to use a smartphone. I go to him, "You know what my job is? I'm a tech reporter." And he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm like,
how embarrassing.
I was just like, wow, do I look that like out of it?
That's crazy.
I know. I'm like, okay.
That is
that old
crazy.
dude.
That's crazy. I mean, granted, you are way older than I am, but
I am way older than you.
No,
and I'm usually older than most of the bros who go to breweries.
Sure.
But you know what? They need to see that older women like craft beer too.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
I know. I was just like, what?
My wife enjoys it when you go to a place where they ID everyone. She loves that. Because she gets ID. I'm like, honey, you're like 30 years past this. Nobody doesn't believe that you are old enough.
No.
Oh, well. Anyway, today on ageism.
I know, right?
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have derailed the fabulous conversation.
No. It comes up a lot in tech, especially.
Yeah. Sexism plus ageism. It's like,
oh man, double whammy.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Well, you're a woman.
That was how
you
my
couldn't
previous
possibly.
company fell apart. They got rid of everyone. They were all older and all female because it was editors.
Yeah.
That's who they got rid of first. You know how? I mean, of course they made the most money and they've been around the longest. They probably had expensive benefits. This is sadly common.
Yeah.
So
I know. Anyway, I was old enough to be duped by the book of news because I did end up writing up the Linux GUI apps on Windows News.
Oh, I want to talk about that. I'm so excited. I thought that's what the new Windows is all about. Hold on, we got to. Mary Jo has stopped moving.
Mary Jo's frozen. Although she does look happy, but
it's a perfect place to freeze it. Honestly, this is
it's
your
like
new
the end of
headshot.
one of those police show TV shows. Episodes, where they fake freeze frame.
By the way, are those new glasses, Mary Jo? Because I really like them.
Oh, thanks. No, not new.
Not new. Okay.
Do you want me to come back in? Hold on.
Yeah, leave the meeting. Oh, I don't have any control of anything. Stop and start your video first, John is telling me. See if you could do that. You press the camera and then you press it again. Uh-oh. I think she left.
She rebooted.
Yeah. Srirachi said, "Over my dead body, woman."
It's a clean image, though.
It's such a good image.
Did I fix it?
No. Stop and start your camera instead of...
okay.
It's the camera, probably. That's
okay. Okay. Did that fix it? No.
We're going to...
Yes.
It did fix it. Just took a little chewing gum.
A little
and bailing
pause.
wire.
Yeah.
So to me, there was big news in the...
I know. But you know what? Okay.
You'd already told us about it, so I wasn't surprised.
No, but okay, so we already knew Linux GUI apps were coming to Windows Subsystem for Linux. We knew because it came out in preview in April, but it was in the book of news saying it was available. So I'm like, oh, wait. Right. So they rushed it out and they're making it available to people, general availability to anybody, right?
It's not actually available.
It's not. No, it's not available. Even though the book of news said it was available, it's still only for insiders on build 21362 or higher. It's coming out later this year. So I'm like, wait, so why was this in the book of news? There's nothing new.
Actually, there was a bunch of stuff in the book of news that was like that, but sometimes it was called out. This feature will be available, whenever. So that one, maybe they didn't do that. Interesting.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, so I wrote it and then I had to go back and then fix my story twice because I'm like, oh wait, it's not actually available, even though they said it was available. Nope, wrong. Instead, the one new piece was something about you can run your Linux AI and machine learning scenarios inside of WSL. I'm like, oh, okay, that's sort of cool.
I will say the one Windows push that I think makes sense, and they were good about it at Build, was this idea that a developer can get a lot done on a Windows box. The notion of a Windows dev box, right? They bring in Windows Terminal is going to be in box as part of Windows 10. The Linux stuff through WSL, including GUI apps. .NET is a cross-platform framework now. Coming soon in version 6. I mean, there's Edge is cross-platform, et cetera, for web developers. I mean, they make a pretty good case for cross-platform development on Windows, unless, of course, you have to make iOS apps, I guess, or Mac apps. But anyway, I like that. And I think, the stuff they showed off for Windows, such as it was, all kind of, including this GUI thing, kind of fall into that bucket, right?
It does. Yeah. Yeah. And don't forget about Quake Mode in Windows Terminal.
Yes.
What does that mean, by the way? Or can I play Quake with it?
No.
Is it Shake?
No. It's a weird name, right? It's
Does it have Nine Inch Nails soundtrack?
So Shake, so Windows still supports Shake, right? That's still a thing, like Arrow Shake they used to call it.
Yeah, Arrow Shake.
So if you take
if you shake it,
I think this is deprecated, by the way, but if you take a window with the mouse pointer and shake it, you'll minimize all the other windows, right? So Quake is a keyboard shortcut.
It is.
That allows you to open a new Windows terminal window anywhere in Windows, is how they describe it. The screenshot they show for it makes it look like the terminal is running on the desktop. But I think I think that was a bad picture. I don't think they mean any, like, you don't like add a terminal window to a window. I think it's just you can open a window from anywhere.
Yep.
Like a window wide keyboard shortcut. Windows wide keyboard shortcut.
Yeah. Not sure why they called it Quake Mode, but yeah, Quake Mode.
Yeah, that got people excited.
Keyboard.
It did. It got people excited. They're like, what's this Quake Mode thing?
Oh, there is? Okay, so the Quake console mode is the tilde key. Is it the tilde key that does this?
Windows key plus tilde, probably.
Oh, you mean it slides down? I'm sorry. That is called Quake Mode by all terminals.
Okay.
Because I now recognize
it's
this.
Not a Microsoft feature.
So when you're playing the
that
Quake
explains
game,
the picture I saw.
yeah, in the game of Quake, you could hit the console, the tilde key, and you get the console.
Yes,
and
there is a Quake tie-in.
Yeah. And so many terminals, all my Linux terminals, I have a Quake mode. iTerm on the Mac has a Quake mode. They don't call it a Quake mode, but it's what it is. It's a console mode so that you can be doing something and pop up a command line, do something, and pop it away. Yeah.
So they finally had a name for something that makes sense.
That's actually where that comes from. Yeah.
And we got too surprised by that, right?
I usually set it up. Just out of homage to Quake, I always make it be a tilde. Right. Maybe sometimes
do you
control
make it look like the same font from Quake? So it's like almost unreadable.
Yeah, exactly. It's all caps. It
looks like a rock, with little divots in it.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, now we know because we didn't know before.
I didn't know that.
I apologize. I should have recognized that immediately.
No, thanks for telling us.
Well, I was in this mindset because there's a new CAPTCHA. Steve Gibson had it yesterday on Security Now. That it's a Doom capture. You play Doom. Did you see that? You have to kill 4 guys in a certain amount of time, and it's got the Doom music. And so I was in that mindset. I thought, oh, maybe they put Quake into PowerShell.
So actually, then what you're saying, it's a little bit like the Amiga. Remember, the windows would kind of slide down over each other.
Yeah.
Or I guess they were technically screens, but you can. In other words, this is a terminal window that appears as an overlay on anywhere where you.
Exactly.
That's actually pretty impressive. That's nice.
Yeah. So now I understand. I apologize for being so slow.
No, I'm glad you know what it is.
I know, me too. Now we know.
Funny.
Yep.
What
else we got?
What else?
We got
That was actually the excitement of the show right there.
Well, hold on a second. Actually, to me, the biggest
much.
thing was this Snapdragon development kit for Windows 10 on.
Oh, right.
You'd mentioned this last week, I think, or maybe I'm wrong.
Well, no, it came up yesterday on the.
We talked about it on the event,
on the live thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is just a little. It looks like an Apple TV or a Roku. It's not really clear what you get or if there are any ports. There've got to be some kind of ports, but. It's a Snapdragon 7C class processor, and we really don't know anything else about it. It's supposed to be affordable compared to buying a laptop based on Windows 10 and ARM, and that, honestly, with that as a context, it could be $700. It would still be affordable.
No, isn't
but
it?
we're hoping
Wait, am I wrong?
Well, you said that
isn't
before,
it
so you said. I have never seen a price, so if you've seen that price, I hope you're right. I hope that's what it is.
I don't know where I thought I saw this.
If that's what it is, they're going to sell 1 million of these just to people who want to try a Windows 10 and ARM, It's not even going to be developers.
I'm trying to find it now and see if I can find the price because I thought it was like
I didn't see a price.
low.
$300 would be quite affordable. That would be really nice. And we literally don't know anything about it. Will it include 5G?
Yeah.
Well, what's the RAM? What's the storage? Is ports? Like I said, we no idea.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be a session where they show it off.
Yeah, there should be, right?
I would hope so. Yeah, I don't know.
I know. I saw somebody ask, "Is it for do-it-yourself enthusiasts who want to build their own?"
We don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, they're going to sell it through the store, so I don't think they're going to be able to restrict it.
Oh yeah.
Anyone could go to the Microsoft store and buy a HoloLens if you wanted to. I mean,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't, but you can. If you have an extra $3,500 kicking around or whatever.
I'm looking still and I can't find the price. I know. I'm like, where did I see the $300? I don't know.
Things that make you go.
I don't know. Yeah,
and as I said yesterday, timing is weird because ARM just announced a brand new update to its ARM 9.
Well, and Apple did this a year ago, right? So a year ago, June, they announced developer kits for M1 based Macs, which was just in a Mac mini body. I'm sure that was the wake-up call that triggered this thing and should have happened 2
I like it because it means they're at least a little committed to Windows on ARM. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
they're trying to get developers to do it.
Well, I will say, with regards to the thing you just said with the ARM v9 architecture, I'm wondering if that isn't tied into Qualcomm's decision not to ship a new 8X whatever processor last year for Windows. Maybe they were waiting for this, and now we'll see a desktop class processor built on that platform, because one of the things it targets is more powerful desktop class, or we call it laptop class devices. Chromebook. We're going to see Chromebooks running this thing, and almost certainly, well, the Qualcomm rendition of it will be what we see on the Windows side.
Okay, what else?
What else? What did they say? Did they actually say anything about Maui? There were no Maui milestones, right?
No. Well,
They should be.
.NET 6 Preview 4, it came out, right? I think that's new. And so the only reason I said Maui there is .NET 6 is the version of .NET where Maui gets incorporated, and Maui is the evolution of Xamarin Forms. So it's going to let you develop natively across all platforms, right? For .NET.
Well, against desktop and mobile is the way I would say that, I guess.
Right. I was thinking like iOS, Android, right? I think so.
Windows and Mac. I think maybe
iOS
is
and
Linux
Android
included?
too,
Is
right?
web included? I'm not really sure.
I think so. I believe so.
Okay.
I know. We haven't talked about Maui in so long. I'm rusty about Maui, but they did talk a little bit about it.
Well, and I feel like, Maui, .NET 6 is targeted for November. Maui technically is, I don't think Maui's going to make November. Or if it does,
really?
it's going to be, it just doesn't seem as far along. Like this happened with Project Reunion, which was originally supposed to ship last November, right? And now it's like, we need more time. I would imagine Maui is maybe not in great shape. But it's not based on, I'm not looking at the code or anything. I mean, just based on how slow it's been going.
You're just making it up.
Okay, that's another way to say it. Semantics. You say tomato, I say potato. I don't know.
Yeah. Other than that, though, Visual Studio 2022, the preview for that's coming this summer, not at Build. Although they did, I think the publishing of the roadmap for that was new, and we know that's going to be 64-bit version.
We kind of
Visual
thought
Studio.
that they would announce that.
I kind of thought it was going to be at
this
Build,
week.
but no.
So no one said anything about this. But if they're going 64-bit, does that mean that Visual Studio will run on Windows 10 and ARM in 64-bit mode, or are they actually going to natively compile it for ARM? I'm guessing they're just going to do emulation, but.
A reminder, we'll be taking your questions in the IRC and in the Discord stage, if you have some. We'll give you some time to do that. We still have actually quite a bit to go.
I know, we got to get rolling here.
Get going. Move it. It's gas station sushi day. Don't take your time.
Silly jokes.
There's a 10-day-old tuna that has my name on it.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about next? Let's see.
I want to talk about Power Platform.
Power? Of course you do.
I do.
Of course you do, Mary Jo. So this is low code, no code. And Nadella did highlight that as if they really see this as being important for enterprise going forward.
Yeah. I think this might have been the biggest announcement of the show. Hear me out.
Wow.
I know. It's
Bigger
tough
than
to pick the
Snapdragon?
biggest.
I agree.
I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know.
No, I think it's true.
So, Microsoft announced at Ignite, I believe, PowerFx. So PowerFx is this new low-code language based on Excel. And they said, this is how we're going to make it easier for people who aren't true professional developers to start doing more coding in Power Apps. So at Build, they said, we're going to infuse PowerFX with GPT-3. So GPT-3 is this AI model from OpenAI. And
It's actually,
the way they
I think it's not. Is it from OpenAI or is it? Because Microsoft.
OpenAI, yeah.
Oh, because one of the stories I saw said it's surprising that they use GPT-3 because they are OpenAI investors. But it is from OpenAI. Okay.
It is. So Microsoft has a special license with OpenAI to actually be able to commercially ship GPT-3 in commercial products. I don't know who else has that license, but Microsoft does. So the way they describe this is you take the GPT-3, you stuff it into PowerFX. You are going to be able to stuff it into PowerFX. Yeah.
Stop stuffing me.
Mix it vigorously.
Mix it with Prose technology from Microsoft Research, and you get this thing that's going to let you truly do what low-code, no-code promises, which is be someone who doesn't know how to code and be able to say in natural language, show me the 10 orders for beer steins arranged newest to oldest.
See, this would be so cool if it really works.
If this works, this is going to be great. Because
it's almost a holy grail of computing.
It is. It is, because all the times Microsoft talks about, Power Platform is to make anybody be able to code. I always say, do you mean me though? And then they're like, not you, right? Like, we mean people who are
You don't even know how to use a cell phone, Mary Jo. Why would we think you could code?
Exactly. No, but you need to kind of have an understanding of programming concepts, I feel like. Like they said to me, if you knew how to program an Excel spreadsheet, you could be a Power Platform developer. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to do that. And they're like, yeah, so it might be more challenging for you. You could use Power Automate, which is like if this and that, because that doesn't really require those skills, right? But Power Platform kind of assumes you understand some level of programming concepts. And if you add the GPT-3 in, the theory is then people who are truly not developers could use natural language queries to get things done in terms of setting up a program, right? I like the idea, like you said, if it really works.
We have ample evidence that this could work because we have a lot of voice-to-text technology that we use every day and think nothing of, And it makes mistakes, from time to time for sure. But but I think we can all agree. I mean, I have a hard time typing on a small screen and reading or narrating a text message or something. To me, makes a lot of sense, and it seems to work pretty well.
Yeah. I'm excited about this one. I know. I think this one's pretty interesting. And it's also the first time that Microsoft shipped a commercial product or will be shipping a commercial product with GPT-3. Like they used GPT-3 internally. They talked about investing in OpenAI, right? But they never actually showed us like, okay, here's why we paid them $1 billion, right? Or whatever. They had some huge investment in OpenAI. And here's why, right? They want to use this technology to really make low-code, no-code a thing. So I thought that was really exciting. And I'm like, okay, if I had to pick one announcement at Build that I think is really huge out of all the things that we were saying, kind of incremental, I would say the PowerFX.
I don't see how you can pick. They were all so great.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. It's tough. It's a toss-up. Yeah. But yeah, they also talked about fusion teams, which is, this is more of a concept, but the idea that you can't just have low-code, no-code developers and professional programmers and business decision makers in a room and expect they're just going to all agree and talk amongst themselves and develop something. Like they're actually trying to create processes and ways for people to actually work together in those three functions so that they can all do part of the development process and make things that people actually want instead of everybody say, okay, low-code developer, you go do this, business decision maker doesn't really know what anybody's doing. So they're trying to solve that problem, right?
Hopefully this works for even less formal things. Like I think most people who are, knowledge workers or whatever you want to call us, have some need for some automation. I mean, I've had things this is a million years ago. I used to write like word macros to automate certain things, I'd like to, if this is good enough, hopefully people will discover it and just, fix their own problems in some cases, which would be kind of fun,
Yeah.
But I mean, this is, I don't know. I mean, it's ever since the Commodore VIC-20 or whatever, the Apple II, people have dreamt of writing their little programs themselves, and it's hard. I mean, that stuff's hard. So this, hopefully it works.
Yep. Yeah. So that's Power Platform. A lot of people thought the Teams news was really big. I kind of thought it was also very incremental.
Yeah, but that's because they introduce hundreds of new features every month, literally, not exaggerating.
Exactly.
And they've had these other shows that are more teams-oriented, right? Like the 2 Ignites.
Yeah, yep.
Where, I mean, honestly, those were kind of incremental too, for the same reason, right? They just,
I know, true. Yep.
You know, it's just because here we are, it's a slice in time.
Yeah. I thought the fluid components in Teams that are in preview was kind of interesting, right? This is
Not fluent.
the thing, not fluid, so that you can have things like lists and to-do items, tables, and when they're updated in one place, like in your email, it'll automatically update in Teams as well, so that people can truly do group co-authoring on documents, and everything will be up to date. This is another one of those holy grail things, right? But
I wonder if there's a fluid replacement for OneNote that we could think about.
Oh man, I know.
You know?
I know. Since we can never get co-authoring to work when we're doing the show notes, yeah, that would be great.
I have a mini tantrum every Wednesday morning when I start writing notes, and then all of a sudden your notes appear and they're already there, and I didn't see them, and it's like I know. This thing is just so slow.
I know.
Anyway.
Yeah, hopefully that is going to fix that problem someday. Yeah, but I thought that was kind of semi-big, and then they had a lot of things for this thing they call Teams apps for meetings. So this is for developers who are creating any kind of app that interacts with Teams meetings. So they introduce a bunch of incremental things there around like new event APIs, new media APIs, new together mode extensibility, so people can like build custom scenes in together mode, which is that stadium view kind of thing.
This stuff. There were a number of developer-related Teams announcements that, to me, point to a future where your teams at your organization could look dramatically different from mine at my organization. Just because we might have different custom apps that the company or some third party is building, and that's kind of the experience, because they're really they're allowing third-party developers to extend almost everything in Teams. It seems.
I know, it does. One interesting aside here, I heard this in one of the sessions I was watching today with Rajesh Jha. So Rajesh Jha is the guy at the highest level at Microsoft who runs Teams. He's the boss of like Jeff Teeper, and he's also Panos's boss, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say Windows too, yeah.
Yeah, Windows, like Microsoft 365 all up. He almost never does any public appearances, but he did a Q&A at Build, and he started talking about Teams as a UI today, which is the first time I've heard them use that technology.
That's actually
a lot of times they call Teams an OS, right?
Yep.
And now they're calling it like the shell.
I've used this example before, but it's changed since I talked about it. We share documents a lot at work, and I'm sharing them with other people, but if I click on a document inside of Teams, the last time I did it, it opened in Word for the web inside of Teams, kind of contained in the window. But I've since experienced this thing where I'm getting a standalone window that has kind of an awkward looking border around it, but it says Microsoft Word in the taskbar, but it's very clearly it's some Teams instance of Word for the web, but kind of blown up in its own window. And I just saw this the other day for the first time, and I'm running Word next to it. I'm kind of comparing them, and it's like, this is getting weird. Like, it's getting to the point where Teams is like program manager now, Like, it could become, Mary Jo froze again.
Yeah.
It could become, your video froze.
So just stop and start the video. Again, it's frozen in a particularly fetching
Although, again,
pose.
it's a good, it's a good. Yeah. You're looking good today, Mary Jo. I don't know what's happening. You're not blurry. You're not like.
It's good. I'll take it.
You're very clear.
I'll take it.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So Teams is almost UI is kind of a weird way to put it. I would say it's like the frame, for everything else. Like it's anything that can be done in the Microsoft sphere. It seems can or soon will be able to be done inside of Teams. Instead of like on Windows. It's interesting. Maybe that's the future of Windows 10X, like a Teams book instead of a Edge book or like a Windows 10X book or whatever.
Stop and start your video again.
I can't.
Look how excited she is. She's so happy to be here.
You know
I'm
what?
stuck.
It's really a testament to how good Mary Jo looks, because
Sure.
I mean, a lot of people, if I froze you, Paul, at a random moment.
Oh, I know. Oh, my God. It would be horrible. Yep. Yeah.
But
she's always smiling. She's in a good mood.
She's happy.
You know?
She's smiling. We're going to end the meeting and restart it, Mary Jo.
Oh, man. It has to be this day.
I wonder if it's related to us turning on 1080p.
Oh.
Because we did turn that on. I don't know.
What was it before? 720?
Yeah. Or maybe 1080i. So you have to petition to get 1080p. There we go.
No, you know what's
Petition.
happening?
What?
This aggressive mode thing that I have on,
You
it
think-
says it affects your video.
Oh, well, turn it off.
All right.
That's interesting. Yeah, it didn't start
Yeah.
until you turned that on.
Yeah, it says on it, it might affect your video. I'm like, I guess it is.
I'm going to get very busy doing echo cancellation. I hope
Well,
you
maybe
don't
if you could,
mind.
Dial up
I
the
think I might have fixed it. I
DSL
moved
you're
my-
using.
I moved this over here. Did that help?
See, now I can hear voices again.
Yeah. Oh, you can?
Yeah. It's different voices, though.
Oh, that was Siri. That
Oh,
was,
okay.
That was
I was going to
me.
say it was a woman.
Siri,
It was a woman this
Siri
time.
just yes.
Okay,
Siri
sorry.
just said, "I'm not sure I understand."
You think by this age I would just be used to hearing the voices? I don't know
God,
what's
the
going on.
voices,
Yeah.
the voices. All
Okay,
right.
so maybe that got fixed.
Kill them all.
Yeah, let's keep going and see. Pick up somewhere. I don't know where. Anywhere you feel like.
Team something something. You said
Teams.
that Rajesh said it was a UI. Is that what you said?
Yeah, he
I
said
think?
it's more like a shell. Instead of
shell.
calling it an OS, he called it a shell.
It is.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. No, I think he's right.
That's more accurate to me than calling it an OS, right?
Well, I called it program manager it's sort of like a
Yeah.
program launcher.
It's a
you know?
platform, is what it is.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
what,
It is a
that's what
platform.
Nadella
Experience.
kept saying is platform.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
extensible. You can write apps for it.
So OS, it has lots of functions, including file management and
does.
stuff that this
Yeah.
doesn't.
Right.
But what the
Yeah,
OS
Leo,
is a
it's early
platform
days.
for apps. Yeah, it doesn't do email yet.
Now coming soon in Teams, NTFS support.
will.
Here we go.
Why use Explorer when you can use Microsoft Teams?
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Then
You
it's
have
an
one
OS.
process running. It is consuming 48 gigabytes of RAM.
Then it is an OS. Until then, it's a platform. Or yeah, Shell is another good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, a shell. I like that better because I feel like when they call Teams an OS, I never really got that metaphor, you know?
Well, just in the sense that you launch apps, I think of it as a dashboard, right? So I think for a lot of IT pros, or actually we'll call them knowledge workers, again, a terrible term, but
Yeah.
Outlook was and still is for a lot of people the dashboard. This is your view of your
Yeah.
day and your week and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's shifted for a lot of people to Teams.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. They've been talking about Teams, a platform, but also as kind of the front end on top of a whole bunch of different things underneath, like Azure Communication Services, Dataverse, all these like different components and levels. Did you see? I don't know if you saw that architectural diagram they threw up there at the head, like everything but the kitchen sink in it, pretty much with
Yeah,
Teams
that's
on the
Teams.
top
Yep.
layer. Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, there we go. So they want developers to start thinking about it that way, like that stack, so that you would use at the lowest level Azure and Azure Communication Services. Then you'd use Dataverse, the graph APIs, and they had like level, and then they at the top is Teams. So they want you to think of the stack on the client like that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No Fluent,
Anyway,
though.
we got way in the weeds with architectural diagrams, but I love architectural diagrams. Like that's one of my things I love.
How do you feel about factory tours?
I've been on many and I kind of like them, but
Okay.
I go on so many beer tours. You see the exact same thing, like, all the way that you brew beer and the mash tun and all the different equipment. And I'm like, yeah, it's the same tour, but I love it. I take it every time I can take it because I like factory tours.
Right.
I'm one of those people. Yeah.
By the way, a viewer / listener, and I'm going to butcher his name. I'm so sorry. Abhay Venkatesh has
Yes.
posted a shot I've not seen of the Snapdragon PC for developers. It does have some ports in the back. It's not really clear what they are.
Wow.
I mean,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's 3 ports and what looks like a light, and
Yeah.
the USB is the obvious one. I think the middle one is a SD card slot. So it's like one USB port, an SD card slot, and then something that looks exactly like an SD card slot. So I don't know what these things are, but there's at least some minimal portage happening back there. Maybe that's the side. Yeah, maybe that's the side. Actually, that might be the side. So maybe there's more going on in the back.
It looks to me, knowing nothing about these kind of devices, like your NUC that you always talk about.
Yeah. But even even on a really small form factor PC, you need to have at least one way to get video out. Obviously, a power supply, and then some number of USB ports of different stripes. And there has to be more going on than what is shown in that image that he provided. It has to be.
Yep. So now we're coming up to the part of the show I know you've all been waiting for, and I'm not talking about Xbox.
The next ad?
No. Oh, yeah, the next ad. Okay.
Yes.
The next ad. And then Azure, the Azure news.
Azure. Remember when Azure, when they first announced Azure, everybody, how do you, Azure? Azure? How do you say it?
Everybody was pronouncing it so weird.
Azure?
Yeah.
How do we say that? Well, now we know it's Azure. Azure. Yes, let's take a break, and then when we come back, Azure and other stuff, including the brand new USB-C 2.1. Yeah, as if there weren't enough USB-C standards. Let's make another one.
Yep.
Totally confuse the people. Our show today brought to you by, speaking of confusion, bandwidth. Not the bandwidth that you're using to download this, but the bandwidth that is one of the very first digital native carriers, a true carrier that is digital native. Why would you like that? Well, perhaps right now you're thinking about migrating your Microsoft Teams to create direct routing, and you're looking for a direct routing migration so that, hey, you're using Teams, might as well use it for everything, including E911, right? Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. How would you like to save 40% compared to Microsoft's calling plans with a bandwidth duet for Microsoft Teams? Bandwidth, the first cloud-native carrier, understands the challenges you're facing when migrating to direct routing for Microsoft Teams. That's why, and I think probably, the boss might say, well, just do the Microsoft thing. But I got to tell you, Duet's better for a lot of reasons. It's the only complete solution for direct routing, plus Microsoft certified E911, available direct from a carrier. And you want a carrier like Bandwidth that's cloud native because they understand redundancy, failover. You can get call forwarding, real-time reroutes, all without leaving Microsoft Teams. That's pretty awesome. Bandwidth's Duet for Microsoft Teams empowers you with software-driven SIP, dynamic E911, and industry-leading expertise to simplify your move. E911 is actually very complicated. There's Ray Baum's Act, an act of Congress which required a dispatchable location. When I say dispatchable, I don't mean a street address. I mean street address plus additional information like floor or suite or room number. Because, of course, the idea is emergency services have to get right to that point in the building. So to say, hey, it's 25 West 38th Street, that's not enough. Well, this is exactly what Bandwidth does. And Bandwidth lets you test those features, not by calling 911 and bogging them down. They have unlimited 933 testing capabilities, so you can verify that your location information meets compliance standards without burdening public safety. Bandwidth is pretty amazing. Everybody uses them. I was talking to the Bandwidth guy. I said, well, we use Ring Central. He said, yeah, that's Bandwidth. Oh. Use Zoom? Yeah, that's Bandwidth. So when you're looking for a carrier that really knows their stuff and you really want to add the features of a cloud-native carrier to your Microsoft Teams platform, there really is only one choice. And you're going to get a partner, not just a provider. I know anybody who's ever worked with telcos has lowered their expectations have been forcibly lowered and lowered and lowered again, not with Bandwidth. They really care. They'll work with you. You'll get a dedicated onboarding specialist who will help execute your project plan. This is why you want a cloud-native carrier. They live this stuff. They know it. This is not something they slapped on their existing brick-and-mortar business. They know this stuff. You'll get a 24/7 NOC expert support teams who can accelerate your migration, be with you every step of the way. They know, for instance, here's a perfect example. A lot of times these migrations, you want to stage the rollout. You don't want to switch it on for the whole company. So with Bandwidth Duet for Microsoft Teams, you can group your users into logical cohorts, whether it's location or department. And that way you can schedule and trigger ports for these individual groups, but you can also seamlessly roll back. So there's just a lot less disruption. Now, I know everybody says they have great support, but Bandwidth really does have it. In fact, Zoom, Genesys, RingCentral, they all use Bandwidth. Bandwidth's white glove customer support has a 9.8 customer satisfaction rating. They're there to help your enterprise migrate with less frustration, and they understand the regulatory requirements, the expectations, and they will help you make sure you're fully compliant. You need that. So, simplify telecom migration, solve for regulatory requirements with a single cloud-native carrier that does it all. Request your proof of concept right now. Bandwidth.com/WW. Bandwidth. Bandwidth. That tells you they've been in the business a long time. If they have bandwidth.com, they've been doing this a long time. Bandwidth.com/dub. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. We thank you for supporting Windows Weekly by using that address so they know you heard it here. Bandwidth.com/W. Okay, get ready. It's Azure time.
It is.
The moment you've all been waiting for.
I'm going to make this fun and exciting.
Let's freeze that frame. Paul, hand in face in hand. Yeah.
No, Paul, I'm going to make it so you don't have to read the book of news stories on Azure because I'm going to give you the highlights.
I already didn't, but thanks.
So I'm going to give you my picks out of what of the many Azure announcements were kind of the top ones, okay? So first, a Mark Racinovich story because he is the CTO of Azure, right? So in 2017, Mark Racinovich came to New York City and they had one of the very first kind of private meetings where they were launching Azure blockchain as a service. And they invited all these banks and hospitals and financial firms, like a whole ton of like super high-end customers. And then they invited me, which was very surprising that they let me loose in the Microsoft office in New York City with all these enterprise customers and Mark Racinovich. But at that event, he announced something called the Confidential Computing Platform. Well, basically, he announced this thing called the Confidential Consortium Framework, which is at the core of the Confidential Computing Platform. Cut to build 2021, Microsoft, right after saying they're shutting down Azure Blockchain as a service and handing it off to one of their partners, now they launch another thing called the Azure Confidential Ledger Service. And when you read about that, what is it? It's another blockchain ledger. So it's another attempt by Microsoft to do blockchain as a service. At the heart of that is the COCO framework, which Mark Racinovich introduced in 2017. So I was like, wait, they just announced another Azure blockchain service. So this must be the replacement for the one that they just killed. Well, as we said last week on Windows Weekly, you're not allowed to say Microsoft kills any products anymore. So they wouldn't say that they killed the Azure blockchain service.
Just terminated it with extreme prejudice.
Exactly. Yeah, they said, Mary Jo, no. This is just another. This is another
different
Azure
one.
Blockchain.
Different one. Yeah.
Right. But anyway, I think this is going to be a big deal because a lot of businesses are looking at blockchain as a way to do confidential distributed ledger. And I was kind of surprised when Microsoft dropped Azure Blockchain. I was like, I thought they were really big on this. Well, they are. They're just coming at it in a more secure and a slightly different way. So that was one of their, I think, unsung announcements from Build around Azure. Then, just to take on a really complicated topic, they also they had some Kubernetes announcements at Azure because we all want to talk about Kubernetes. I don't talk about Hadoop anymore, so let me talk about Kubernetes, something equally obscure and hard to explain. Kubernetes is a container orchestration technology that is being used widely across the industry right now. And so Microsoft took their Azure Arc technology, which is this idea that you can manage all of your Azure services from a single pane of glass, even if they're running on other clouds or other platforms. So now they're Azure Arc enabling Kubernetes and a bunch of Azure services that run on Kubernetes. So the idea is you, Mr. Developer or Ms. Developer, will be able to build an Azure service-based application on Kubernetes and run it in any cloud, not just Azure, also on Google Cloud, also on AWS or on premises, and manage it all from a single pane of glass through Azure Arc. That was a pretty big deal. Hard to explain, but kind of a big deal. And then, because it's not a Microsoft show without Microsoft rebranding something, Microsoft is taking a bunch of things that were known as independent Azure services. Many of these were based on Azure Cognitive Services, so they're AI services. And they're rebranding these as Azure Applied AI Services because that just rolls right off the tongue. Why is this significant, this group of services that they're now calling Azure Applied AI Services? What they're trying to do is raise the level of abstraction, get that? You know, you've heard that terminology before, and make it easier for people to add AI to their business applications. Because a lot of people aren't doing AI right now, right? Like really big companies are doing it, but it's hard. It's really hard. You have all these different disparate services in AI, and unless you're an expert, you don't really know how to add them into your app. So Microsoft's thinking, hey, you know what? If we have these with some business logic attached to them and make it easier for task-specific scenarios, maybe people will feel like they can take these cool AI services that we have running on Azure and build them right into their apps. So that's... If you see them talking about Azure Applied AI Services, that was another big Azure announcement at Build. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get businesses more easily able to integrate AI into their applications. There you go. All your Azure news, boom, right there.
See how that was painless? That was easy, Paul.
I added
Not like
16
an
more
Xbox
Xbox
segment.
stories because of this.
Guys, compare that to an Xbox segment. I just kept it right, moving along.
Moving
right on the
along.
rails.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
wow.
Yeah. I didn't get my nap in, but okay. I'll take it. All right. Good. That was fun.
There you go.
And there is some non-build Windows news. Do you want to? Actually, there's some non-build news in general. Just a quick highlight of the other stuff.
We already mentioned the 21H1 rollout stuff. I kind of threw that into the beginning, but I just, in my experience, and I've certainly installed this on more different computers probably than most. I mean, this is just the simplest, fastest, easiest, and error-free upgrade of all time. I hope they continue in this vein. It's great, but not a big update, obviously. The standard reaction is, what changed? Because nothing changed. So that's good. Just today, this is kind of breaking news. This is arguably the biggest news of the show, if you're still with us. Microsoft has released a new build of Windows 10 to the dev channel of the Insider program. And Task Manager and the MSI installer now have new Fluent icons, which Mary Jo will not be able to see.
Not fluid, fluent.
No. Fluent, right, yes. And that's about it. Also, we know that Windows Terminal is being added into Windows 10 in some future release, and in this build, they're also letting you make it your default terminal. I'm a little confused what that even means. Terminal always reminds me of like Hyper Terminal from Windows 95, back in the day. And this is also really big news if you're into bloatware. Microsoft is adding a math solver to Edge, which you have to enable. So I give them some credit for that. It's not enabled by default. Obviously aimed at students for the most part. But it allows you to, within the browser, look at a photo of a handwritten or printed math problem, and it will provide you the solution, but also step-by-step instructions for solving that mathematical problem. So it's kind of interesting. It will pull up a mathematical keyboard, so if you have to enter the special characters that might be involved in math. And it has quizzes and worksheets and video tutorials to help you grow your math skills. Obviously, a feature that should be in a web browser. So I'm surprised Chrome is not doing this. And if you're worried about Edge turning into the next Teams, keep worrying, because that's what this looks like to me, right? I mean, they're just adding all kinds of features to Edge now.
I know. Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
There you go. That's the whole thing.
It's weird to have a math problem solver in Edge. I don't really understand.
Is it for students? I mean, is that because they have,
it is.
They're really going after the student market?
Yeah, but you can do that in Google. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. I just don't understand why you would.
Well, I think this is for complex problems where there's a lot of weird characters and maybe multi-step solutions and stuff.
Do one thing and do it well. That's my philosophy.
I know.
Microsoft is looking at it from the other angle, which is do everything and do most of it pretty poorly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's SharePoint syndrome, we call it.
Yes, right, exactly.
You know,
exactly right.
Steve Jobs was right when he said that the most important thing you can say as a leader is no. Is know what not to put in.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say Apple might be a little too aggressive on that front.
Yeah.
But yes,
They're good at
that's a
no.
good point. No, it's a fair point.
Good at no.
Yeah.
So there's a brand new USB-C standard in town.
So this is interesting to me because, again, oddly, this has come up a couple times, but I've been getting rid of all these computers I have to send back. And, one of those things you kind of notice is that Ultrabook class computers, no problem, USB-C power works great. But USB-C falls apart for larger, beefier computers. And we saw this problem
desktop
with,
replacements there.
Yeah, and gaming machines and so forth. And so you have to have like a barrel connector and a higher wattage power supply and so forth.
Proprietary, too, which is annoying. Yeah.
So obviously we want that one cable thing. And I have to say, like, one of the cool things I noticed traveling recently was actually on 2 occasions, I forgot to bring my little gadget bag that has all my cables and stuff in it. And my laptop charger, which is a 65-watt USB-C charger, worked fine for my tablet, worked fine for my smartphone, and it worked fine for my computer. So it's, this is the dream, right, with USB-C. But the USB Implementers Forum, whatever they're called, the standards body that does, the pseudo standards body that does USB, is announced a new USB-C 2.1 spec. So the only change is instead of being limited to 100 watts of power, which is the case today, you will be able to do power delivery up to 240 watts, which should be enough to power any computer, any portable computer. Not obviously. Also, by the way, I would say some desktop computers too. But I think more to the point, it's also for those kind of pass-through situations where you have a bunch of things going on. Maybe you have like a dock with multiple displays and whatever. This should be enough power for lots of good, computing scenarios, not just for powering a single computer.
So,
I know.
Am I going to need a special cable?
Yep. Yep. You need a new computer. You need it has to be in the computer in what they're calling the receptacle, right? The female end there. You have to have a new cable, and you have to have a new connector.
Because it'll melt the other cables.
Yeah. So even like something like what's interesting is like OnePlus, for example, has really high wattage power supplies, and those things can charge my laptops no problem. They're really good.
They're probably 60 watts. Yeah,
I think they're 60. They might even be 65 for wire. 60 or 65. But but this is just turning it up. I don't mean to pull like that. It makes sense,
and probably it's not going to be that if you get that new 240-watt cable, it won't do everything else your old 100-watt cable did, I would hope. That has been the problem with Type-C cables, though, is they don't all... You can't tell from looking at it what the cable does or doesn't do. Right.
So I feel like we've gotten mostly over that initial problem where some computers, you could actually fry a computer.
That problem. Yeah.
But the problem with USB-C, obviously, is we probably had, off the top of my head, at least 3, 4. This might be the 5th version of this. I mean, you can't tell them apart, right? So that's why remember USB ports for a little while were color-coded?
Yeah, they had blue ports for 3.
And yellow was used by, Lenovo uses yellow sometimes. Yeah. I feel like we need something.
Well, in theory, we do have something because the USB-C Consortium has little icons you're supposed to put on these cables. It's just nobody does. Well, they're supposed to be on the computer. They're supposed to be on the cable. Yeah. They're supposed to be on the receptacle.
There is USB does have a communications standard, so it can broadcast what its capabilities are.
Right.
But by the time a lot of devices see that, they've already exploded.
I haven't yet been upgraded to a Type-C port, so it's useless for me. But if I could plug it into my ear, maybe. Just put it on the gosh darn cable. Like, well, you saved the packaging, didn't you? Oh, yeah, that's what I do.
Yes.
I keep all my cables in the original
It was my
packaging.
fault.
Yeah, my fault. Yeah. Oh, Lord. And then now, will USB-C 4, USB 4 support this? Will Thunderbolts? No.
Well, so I feel like Thunderbolt might go away just because of USB 4, right? But that requires that larger... Oh, no, it doesn't. No,
it's the same darn connector.
You're right. I'm sorry. It is the same connector.
That's what's so frustrating. It's so... you can't tell.
So USB-C, I think, is just the port, the receptacle. It's the physical connection and then, the cable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I presumably... Got to be amazing if we had future computers, because we've seen this before with USB 2 and 3, where you have one of each port. It would be horrible if we had USB-C 2.1 on one port and then USB 4 on a second port.
You will.
This is why when my mother asked, should I get into computers? I'm like, no. This is stuff that normal people should never have to even think about.
No.
I don't know. I can't imagine we're not going to see Thunderbolt 4/USB 4 over USB-C 2.1. But then again, I've also witnessed what this industry has done in the past. So who can say?
So this is essentially the new PD spec, which was 100 watts, is now 240.
That's exactly.
And so, but the problem is there are a lot of things labeled PD that are the old PD, not the new PD.
Yeah, that's right. They should call it PD Super Speed.
Super Speed PD or SS
that's
PD.
That's how they tend to do it. And by the way, they've used super speed multiple times to mean different things. So that doesn't help either.
Yeah.
That's why we have standards.
Now we do need a beer pick for this show.
I wish you had one. We are going to get to your hands up segment where you get to ask these wonderful people, Paul and Mary Jo, your questions. But before we do, let's get everybody all ramped up with a very exciting Xbox segment.
I did add one news item while Mary Jo was talking, because this just happened. But Microsoft announced that on Sunday, June 13th, they're going to have an Xbox and Bethesda game showcase.
Oh, what time?
At 10 a.m. PT.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm busy.
Okay.
I have a radio
show. Do you think that's the What's Next for Gaming event we keep hearing about?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
So we should cover it. Yeah. Sounds like it'll be a big deal.
They were going to do, it was gaming, security, and Windows, I think were the ones we had heard about.
It was. Yep.
So now that Bethesda's part of Xbox. Also, by the way, it's worth pointing out, E3 historically has been in the beginning of June.
This would be at E3 instead, but no, it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't specifically mention E3, but it has to be around the same time frame.
Yeah.
Well, it is around the same time.
I guess we could do it because I don't do the radio show till 11, so maybe I'll come in early on Sunday. And is that Father's Day?
Probably, knowing Microsoft. Why it's so indefinite.
Gosh, is it really?
I don't know. Actually, it probably is.
All month is Father's Day.
Thank you.
No, it's Father's Day is the following Sunday, thank God.
Father's Day is Mother's Day too, the quickening where I live.
The 20th,
Yeah, the 20th,
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that.
But that's good. So it sounds like that's something I should cover. That's going to be important.
I think, I mean, remember that Xbox thing we did last fall?
Yeah, that was a little bit of a disappointment.
It's going to be like that. I mean, it literally is going to be game,
just a bunch of clips.
So,
yeah,
if you like that kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway, but Bethesda's part of Microsoft now, so
that's
I'm
exciting.
Sure there'll be some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Microsoft announced the games with gold titles that are coming next month, and this is for people who have an Xbox Live Gold subscription or an Xbox Ultimate. Hello. I'm reading my own thing and it's written incorrectly. An Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription. Remember, you get 4 free games every year as long as your subscription is still valid. There's nothing here that really jumps out at me personally. Of course, I play specific games, but the games are The King's Bird, Shadows Awakening, Neo Geo Battle Coliseum, and Injustice, Gods Among Us. It's just like random word generator from what I can tell. But that's happening over the course of May, of course. And what was the other one? Oh, this one's kind of interesting, although this too, I think, has been a little blown out of proportion by people. Microsoft does, and you really have to know what's going on with Xbox. I think we might have talked about this last week, how complex this has suddenly gotten. Xbox used to be console, right? That was the whole thing. Now we have PC games, we have cross-compatible games, we have mobile games via a game streaming service that used to be called xCloud, but is now called Xbox Cloud Gaming, but is part of the same Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription I just mentioned. And then they have different Xbox Game Pass subscriptions as well for just console and PC. A lot of Xbox there. And it's hard keeping track of what's what here, but within the Xbox Cloud Gaming world, there are hundreds of games, right? Over 100 originally, and then EA Play came in, and there's a bunch of others now. So hundreds of games that you can play today, limited to an Android device, which is kind of weird, but we know it's coming to web and thus to everywhere, iOS, iPad, etc., and to Windows sometime this year. So this will be a mainstream gaming platform soon. And again, to add to the complexity, because a lot of people are going to play these things on a mobile device, Microsoft is where it can adding touch controls to games so that you're streaming an Xbox console game down to your little phone, but the Xbox controls will appear over the screen of the game and you can play the game. Now, I can't do this. I'm over 50 years old. I can't see this thing. But if you're younger, you can probably handle that kind of thing. I don't like playing on glass like that. But Microsoft has a dual-screen Android device called Surface Duo. And there are other folding / dual-screen devices, I guess, or certainly there will be. And it will no doubt support this. But what they did, I think this is pretty cool, is you can have the thing, again, in that L shape where one screen is down here and one screen's up here. The game's on the top screen, and the touch controls, are on the bottom screen. That way, even though you're still playing on glass, you're not blocking the display of the game while you play. That's actually pretty good. Now, does that mean they just turned this little hunk of junk into a powerful gaming class computer? No, not really. I mean, well, yes, thank you, The Verge. But no, I still think playing on glass is not great, for a console class game, but it's better than it overlaying the screen, right? So it's a cool advance. And if you bought into the whole Microsoft thing, apologies. This is a neat little bonus for those people who happen to have both this device and that service. So it's something you can enjoy if you do.
I can't wait.
You don't have to wait. It's out now.
Well, but I don't want to play it on Android. I just don't want to play it on Android.
Yeah. No, who does?
So, what? iPad would be really what I want to play.
That's how I play it, and that doesn't work well, but it looks good. Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe it gets there. I don't know. Well, remember I was talking about playing Call of Duty. Like, that works great. But game, what do you call it? Cloud gaming, Xbox Cloud Gaming, xCloud, isn't quite there yet. But it's still in preview. So
it's too bad I sent back that Duo, because that is looks kind of cool.
You did the right thing. You're good.
All right. Do you want to take questions from our fabulous studio audience?
Okay.
Why not?
You certainly sound excited.
I threw out my back on Sunday, and as this thing has gone on, I've been thinking about, how could I lay down and have them not notice, but I can't figure out a way.
Go ahead, lie down.
Yeah.
Bring the microphone with you. Mm-hmm. If you are in the Discord, if you're members of Club Twit, twit.tv/Club Twit, if you have forked over the $7 a month, you can go into the stage, press the button to raise your hand. It's kind of like Clubhouse. If you've never used Clubhouse, this is exactly how Clubhouse works. Raise your hand. There we go. We're getting some hands raising. And I can also take questions from the IRC, but of course I'll have to read those out loud. Friendly Manitoba in IRC says, Paul, where does it plug in? No, that can't be free.
The what?
I don't know. It's joking.
Oh, so by the way, I have confirmed that second shot of the Snapdragon PC, if that's what he means, is the side. So there's a back.
Maybe that's what he's talking about.
Other ports and a power port. Yeah.
Okay, there he is. Big
magic. It doesn't need power. It's
Big
magic.
Tech Coach is up on the stage in our Discord. Hello, Big Tech Coach. What button should I press, John? Skype 4. There you go. Hello, Big Tech Coach.
Hey, Leo. How's it going?
Hey, I hear you. It's going great. Where are you calling from?
Alabama.
Can you tell that I do talk radio? And where are you calling from, Big Tech Coach? It's good to have you. It's good to have.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Perfect. You fit right in. What would you like to ask Paul and Mary Jo?
Well, if I could do one quick comment first.
Sure.
You guys mentioned Flipgrid in one of the reports earlier, the educational tool that's used to share video, and you didn't have too much experience with it. It is huge in the education scene. Millions and millions of teachers and millions of students, and
that's great.
Hundreds of thousands of teachers. It's very, very popular.
Are you a teacher?
I'm an educator. I'm retired, but I do a lot of consulting work, and that actually kind of leads into my question. So I set up my personal Teams when they open that up under my Microsoft Live account, but I'm also a university adjunct faculty member, and they have a Teams instance, and I do some consulting for a national education group, and they have a different Teams. And on each one of those accounts, I have different access to different apps. For instance, I can get lists in one, I can get planner in one. Is there any way to kind of work that so that I can see everything at one time? With one kind of
Next call, please.
Why are you laughing, Paul? Why are you laughing?
No, because unfortunately, there isn't a way. I mean, since you've done it, you know that you get like a different window, a different view for each of the accounts, and then the capabilities are going to change based upon the capabilities of the underlying account, right? There can be different, and whatever configuration that the IT for that place did. I mean, they may be restricting what you're getting too. I mean, it's hard, you don't control it. So it's kind of hard to say. I mean, if there's, for Planner as an example, if you're getting Planner in one of your commercial/educational accounts, but not in another, you might have to contact them to find out why. Either it's being blocked or they might not even know,
Isn't it based on the plan that they've...
Yeah, at one level it is, but then beyond that, you can also configure it right at a group level. So it's possible they've done something either by mistake or on purpose to prevent it.
So I run into the same thing with multiple Google accounts for each of these organizations, and it's really disheartening to say, at least in Google, I can do the account switcher a little bit easier.
Right. Yep. Yeah, remember, when was this? I don't remember anymore. There used to be the ability with them, before it was even called a Microsoft account, to flip a switch and go back and forth between two accounts, at least in a web interface. But they got rid of that. And at the time, they were talking about maybe letting people merge accounts, and that was 10 years ago now. I mean, it's never going to happen. So this is kind of the way they do it, unfortunately.
Because if they could make even that account switching a little easier, I'd be first in line for your team book that you're designing.
Are you working on a Teams book?
No. I recognize that a Teams book would make tons of sense, but I don't have the expertise or interest to do it.
He doesn't want to learn it.
Well, no, if you never want to stop, writing and updating and learning, I mean, Teams is the most fertile ground imaginable.
I don't even know how you'd keep that book up to date, given how
I know it would. It would be
be out of date instantly, like next week.
Yep. Every time you publish, it's out of date.
Yep. Big tech coach. What's your real name?
Sorry,
Keith George.
Nice to meet you, Keith. Thank you for joining Club Twit. We appreciate it.
All right.
I'm sorry. All I could do is just relate to your problem because unfortunately I don't.
I apologize for Paul.
Yes. Thank you. Now you sound like my wife.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it, Matt. Also up here on the stage, Matt Ryder. Also, don't forget IRC. You're included in this too. They're busy singing Jewel songs for some reason, but we'll let them ask questions too. Go ahead, Matt.
Special slice of the internet.
Yeah. I reply to big tech. There's a limited solution that I am aware of that is not great, but different. You can enable guest access on Teams instances. You can actually sign in, assuming the administrator allows it, sign in as a guest on different instances. That might be one way to navigate your issue. I manage the Teams for my church. And man, the back end of Teams is very complicated. compared to like Slack and other things. But guest access is a thing that's a possibility.
So ask your administrator then, probably. Maybe it's not enabled.
You could try. I mean, like before they added multi-account in Team, the app, the Teams app, we used to use different web browsers for different accounts. I suppose you could just try to sign in as a guest through the web interface and see if that is even available. I don't know how that works. But yeah.
And apps like Shift might work too. That's an app that lets you sign into multiple accounts and switch between them independently of each other with different cookie setups and whatnot. It would force a web browser, so that would be unideal, but that's another way I've navigated multi-Teams access-y stuff.
Right. Yeah, the way they do it is it's kind of inelegant. And the first time when they first announced it, I signed in with my Microsoft account to see what it was like, and I screwed up everything in Teams on my commercial side, so I ended up getting rid of it. But oh well.
Was there a question you wanted to ask, Matt, or was it just that?
That's it.
All right. Hey, thank you. I appreciate your...
So someone is being helpful, unlike us.
Yeah, somebody knows the answer, unlike us. It's an amazing thing, the community.
It is.
Keith512 in our IRC asked a question I get constantly. What the hell's wrong with file copy? He says, when will Microsoft change the File Explorer so that the file copy uses more than one CPU thread? There's other issues, too. It's not reliable. Sure. It doesn't do verifications. That's why they provide robocopy, right?
Yep.
File copy's terrible. But why? Why? I mean...
Yep. I don't know why. I mean, it's just not particularly sophisticated. I run into this a lot, and...
it's simple.
It's a weird thing when it's easier to download something from the web than it is to copy it from one computer to the other. But I've done that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's been rumors of a revamped File Explorer for a long time now. I assume.
Is it File Explorer or is it the underlying copy command? Because if you did,
I mean, it's a component of File Explorer, which is just the shell. Yeah, I technically... I mean, there's no reason they couldn't fix it without replacing File Explorer, I would imagine.
No, I would think... robocopy's in every version of Windows. It's a command line utility. It's worth
You don't
learning.
think you should be able to copy like 5 things at the same time and not have to divide the speed between the 5? I mean...
What's so hard? Somebody's saying it's I/O bound, not CPU bound, but I don't know. I think robocopy... is faster because it's faster.
I don't know what component to blame, but what I do know is that the hardware I have is capable of much more performance than I see when I do copy files, especially between computers.
Yeah. And somebody, Keith's also mentioning TerraCopy, which is a third-party tool which does multi-thread as well. And Retcon, who is the IT guy, says use T with robocopy. Oh, good. Thank you so much for your... Now we have to explain how command lines work, and I don't want to do that. Let's Kev Brewer is next up in our Discord stage, and then Vicky, you'll be next after that. Hi, Kev. I think sometimes we get the push to talk issue.
Yeah.
Because if it's a setting in your Discord, you have to. I would suggest turning off push to talk, turn on speak to talk. But Kev, I think you're still muted. How about you, Vicky? Go ahead, and while Kev's working out his
I'll be a little
audio.
comic relief for you.
Good.
I don't have a Windows question. I'm not a Windows girl. I've been a Leo fan since, as I like to call it, the before time, long ago.
Yep.
And I've been watching Windows Weekly for as long as you guys have been on. And I just want to thank you for being so entertaining. I always enjoy the show. I'm always laughing along and smiling. And you help me be tech support for my friends who do use Windows. I at least know enough to say, turn it off and turn it on again. And, the minor things that always seem to fix whatever's wrong.
That's high praise, though. If you're not a Windows user and you listen to the show and you've listened to it all along, thank you. Really appreciate that.
I also feel the curious need to apologize. Oh, sorry. Yep.
I just wanted to jump in, and
Thanks,
know
Vicky.
I've told Leo before, but I haven't told Paul and Mary Jo.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
We appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you, Vicky. Retcon's
Have a
clarifying
nice day.
his T. He's saying if you use /N MT with robocopy, you can choose how many threads. So if you did /MT:32, it would use 32 threads, and that, he says, makes a big difference.
Why wouldn't it just use all the threads?
Use them all.
Use
them all.
It's
How
like
many threads you got?
Remember back on the pre-Mac OS 10 days, you could in the system determine how much RAM each app got? Why would a user need to do this?
That was a very bad operating system with terrible memory management. Now we got Kev on the line. Hi, Kev.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you great.
Oh, brilliant. Hi. Question for Paul more than anyone else, I think, on this one. The news that Netflix is looking to go into gaming. What impact do you think that might have?
Isn't that wild?
Microsoft's
and people are comparing it more to what Apple has done with Arcade than, say, Microsoft Game Pass or xCloud.
I think look, I mean, if you follow the gaming market, you know that video gaming is bigger than Hollywood, really. And it kind of makes sense that entertainment companies would want to get in on this action. Plus, services like Stadia and Luna and xCloud eventually are kind of showing that the technology that these streaming video companies can be used to bring games now to different clients, and that the same clients that are already accessing Netflix, like Roku boxes, Apple TVs, whatever, can be front ends for games as well. So I just think it must be lucrative.
Where the content's coming from.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't think I think the pundits are implying that it won't be AAA gaming. It's not going to be Call of Duty. It will be.
You know what? What did we say about when Netflix first started its video streaming service? It was an adjunct to a DVD, mail-in service, and it was crap. It was just lousy B movies that they bought it in bulk. And Netflix has turned into this, the new HBO in a way from like original content perspective. And I'm not saying that I don't know anything about what they're doing, but I mean, there's reason to believe that they could have a similar level of success in video games if they wanted to. The only problem is that so many companies now are going after exclusive content. Apple does it with Arcade, and Google doesn't do it with Stadia actually. But
I don't think they do the Stadia model. That's a terrible model because you've got to buy the game, but you don't get the game.
But I mean, honestly, they probably have more experience acquiring original content than any company on earth.
Well, it works. I mean, that's the other thing. Technology is very good on Stadia.
Yep. And by the way, does anyone ever complain about Netflix?
No,
in the sense
works
that
really well. Yeah.
I have this thing where I could be watching YouTube in a web browser on my computer, and the quality is terrible. And I go down to the quality setting, and it's on 480 or something, and it should be on 1080 or better, and it's not, and I don't know why. But I never have that problem with Netflix. Like Netflix is semi-unique now that I'm thinking about it. The video streaming services. Yeah, it just works. So,
are you in the UK, Kev? Where are you located?
I am in Nottingham, city of Nottingham.
Oh,
nice.
Well, say hello to the sheriff and Robin and his merry band.
I will.
Anyway, I think I'm like a lot of people. I think it's interesting what Netflix, what we know. We don't know too much about it so far, but I mean, I think there's no reason to think they couldn't be successful.
Is Netflix big in the UK, Kev? Is it as big?
Oh, yes, it's huge.
Okay,
it's as big there as it is in America, no question.
That's really interesting because
and Prime too.
And Prime too. So Amazon's had trouble historically in international markets, but I guess
that's going to change. They just acquired MGM for $8.4 billion.
Did that go through? They did acquire them?
Yeah, they announced it today.
Official today.
Oh boy.
Well,
that
and there's
seems like a little bit of a monopoly problem.
Imagine they do what Disney Plus is doing, and they have, their series, like they have James Bond, and they can have James Bond little TV series.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's interesting. But
I think he's
Netflix. I mean, God, they go to country to country. A lot of Netflix content. You have a burst of stuff from the UK, then a bunch of stuff from Belgium and the Netherlands and Sweden and Norway and Poland recently, and
they're starting to break down those barriers that historically the movie industry was very provincial,
and TV shows too, by the way, right? And it's really interesting.
And I think that the demand for content during COVID has prompted them to start looking farther and farther afield. But you know what? A lot of those shows are great. I haven't watched that Polish show. Is it good, Paul? Did you start watching that?
We watch a lot of international shows.
Yeah. Sorry, Kev?
I was just saying, I wonder if they're going to do upgrades for the MGM musicals now they've got the content.
Showboat, it's back.
The star of James Bond is kicking and dancing.
Hey, Kev, a pleasure talking to you in Nottingham.
Likewise.
Thank you for joining the club. We appreciate it. Love our club twit.
Enjoy it thoroughly.
Fans, and we appreciate it. And I think that I don't see any more questions from either the Discord or the IRC. But that was a nice bunch of group. Yeah. I would love to do this every show. So
sure, we oddly kind of forget about it. I think we.
I know we do.
We fell out of it.
Yeah.
But let's keep doing it because I love it.
Yeah. It's nice.
You know what's nice? We have really interesting, diverse audience, and so it's great to hear from them. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
So here's another one more from IRC. Wild question from GK. What's the possibility of Microsoft announcing new Windows that, one, runs Linux UI apps? They had already announced that. Yep. Runs Android apps, and has a single store for all these sub-platforms.
Oh, I think you've just described what Mary Jo is hinting at here. Yeah.
Android too?
Yeah, that's a rumor.
So it is, right? There's a rumor that there's like mini stores within the store. So like maybe like an Amazon store and a Google store.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
It sounds so bizarre, but I'm like, yeah.
By the way, though, I haven't watched this, but Google I/O, and this is on YouTube, has a session about stores that can be hosted within the Google Play Store. So they're doing it too. This is not.
They are.
Even though I think as a Windows fan or a Microsoft guy, you might hear this and think, well, the Windows Store, the Microsoft Store hasn't been particularly successful. What would be the point of this? But I think this is a thing, like outside of Apple, obviously, where you're going to see more and more of this kind of thing. So I haven't watched it, so I'm not entirely sure exactly what they're doing. But they're also allowing developers to host stores within their store. So this is maybe this is a new trend.
All right, one more from the Discord stage. I can't resist this one because Bruno his avatar is him and the whole fam visiting. Nice to talk to you. Hello, Bruno. Are you there? Oh, I think we're getting the bit by the push to talk a problem again. But boy, that's a cute family photo. They're all sitting on my ball.
You said we weren't allowed to go.
Oh,
to
he
studio.
left. He left.
Oh,
he couldn't. He's having technical difficulties.
Oh well.
That's okay. Anyway, I got to see the avatar. That's all I care.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul and Mary Jo, that was fun. We'll do that again from now on. If you are in Club Twit, make sure you head to the stage. I sent out. There's a little notification thing. I should explain this. If you're in the Discord is such a foreign land now for us oldsters. But if you look in the welcome section, you'll see a notifications setup. If you haven't yet, go in there, because these are all the shows we do. If you want a notification from Discord when the shows go live, I send those out at the beginning of every show. Just click the avatar for the relevant show here to join it. And you can see, let me just look at Windows Weekly. You can see that there are, where is Windows Weekly?
It's in the middle on the second row.
You see it?
Yep, right there. That's it. 128, it says.
120. So you got 129 now. 29. Oh, there you are. 100. It's funny because that avatar looks, boy, I was seeing a person's face in it, but instead
it's two people's faces.
It's two people's faces.
And this is like people's faces from like 15 years ago too.
I know, it's really old. So don't click it. So it's going down because people are clicking it after they'd already clicked it once. That's an on and off.
Why are you leaving?
No. So it's pretty funny, actually. It's going up and down right now. But if you haven't already clicked it, it will go up and you will automatically get a notification. Some wag is, I think, clicking and clicking and clicking. But if you click, I'll click Twitter Advanced, for instance. It'll add you to that, and you'll get a notification. So that's a nice little feature it's a weird feature of Discord that we've added.
I can't believe you didn't use Teams for this, Leo. It's disappointing.
Well, I didn't really need to get email in it, so I decided. Discord I'm pretty excited about Discord, and I know Microsoft wanted to buy them, but I really think in many ways it's the future of social because, it's a place where people hang. And we have a lot of people hanging in there. If you're not yet a member of...
It's truly social, is that what you're saying?
It's truly social without any Mark Zuckerberg. There's no Zuckerberg in it. There's no ads. There's nothing. Anyway, if you want to be a part of our Discord, the real benefit of Club Twit, I think, at least we thought when we started it, was ad-free versions of all the shows, and you still get that, audio and video. But you also get access to the Discord server, and there's great conversations going on in there. There's even shows going on. Stacey Higginbotham wants to start a science fiction book club. We have a Linux show in there. Yeah, it's fun, and you guys are welcome. If Mary Jo wants to do beer talk with Mary Jo Foley, you could you could do that anytime you feel like it.
Let me tell you something about Larry Niven.
That bastard.
That ring world loving bastard.
It is a lot of fun. You also get the Twit Plus feed, which is all the stuff we cut out of the shows because it's too embarrassing. You get access to that. That's all from Club Twit, and it's all just $7 a month. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to find out more. twit.tv/clubtwit. And it does support the network and keeps us afloat. We actually started this because advertising sales were really significantly off during the pandemic. Yeah. And we're basically trying to find ways to keep the lights on. And the response has been great. We're very happy. So good. Thank you, everybody. Paul Thurrott, he's got a premium membership at his place, Thurrott.com. Well worth it. Lots of great articles for exclusive for members. Thurrott.com. His books are at leanpub.com. The Wheeled Guide to Windows 10.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And now in its second edition, lots of more wheels in this one.
I don't know where that came from. The Field Guide to Windows 10, or as we call it, the Wheeled Guide to Windows 10.
The Weird Guide to Windows 10.
The Weird Guide is available at leanpub.com.
That's a better name, actually.
Yeah, it's a good name. I think maybe you could all do a Weird Guides, kind of series.
Yeah.
The Weird
An
Guide
imprint.
too, yeah.
The Weird Guide series. Mary Jo Foley is at allaboutmicrosoft.com. That's her ZDNet blog, and they come here every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC to do this show. You can watch us live at twit.tv/live. That's free. If you're watching live, chat with us live. That's free. Everything's free except for the club, but everything else is still available, and that's how we want to keep it. irc.twit.tv. If you're in the club, of course, you can also listen in. We don't yet have video streaming to the club. That's a Discord limitation, but you can listen in and chat with us. Someday. Well, I don't, Discord, they keep adding features. I wouldn't be surprised if that someday is soon. Mm-hmm. And let's see what else. Oh, on-demand versions of the show available at twit.tv/WW. That's the website. You can also subscribe in your favorite podcast client. There's a whole YouTube channel devoted to Windows Weekly. All of that available whenever you're in the mood. So listen live or listen on demand. It's up to you. Paul, Mary Jo, has it cooled off on the East Coast?
Oh, it's really bad right now.
It's another hot one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
88 today right now.
Yeah.
It was
and
high at 91.
so humid. Yeah, so humid.
Humidity.
When I drove home on Sunday, there were 3 or 4 times where it hit 93 degrees on the way. Yeah. It's like,
yikes.
Yeah.
All right.
Gotta keep... I guess I'm gonna have to move north again. I don't know how to fix this.
It's hot. It's getting hot in here.
Yeah.
Well, stay cool and have a beer, and we'll do a beer pick next week, right?
Yes,
That's
of
a
course.
popular feature of this show, I must say.
It is.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Mary Jo. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, too.
On Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I want to tell you about my show, Hands-on Photography, here on Twit TV. Each and every week, Thursday that is, I like to sit down and share with you the best tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer. And it's not always about Photoshop. It's not always about just having the biggest and baddest and bestest camera. It can be the simplest of things, like leave your eye open when you're looking through the viewfinder. All of these simple tips can really help step your photography game up. So subscribe to the show today. That's twit.tv/hop. And I look forward to talking to you soon.